Hello, and welcome to the Actual Tech Media MegaCast. My name is Jess, and I am excited to be here with you all today. But before we jump into our content, I have some basic information to cover with you. Let's kick off our day here today by taking a quick tour of your audience console. And we're going to start with the questions window. Now, if you haven't already said hi, there is a whole audience of cool humans out there, so reach out and give a wave to the other members of the Actual Tech Media community. Also, keep in mind that if you have any tech issues today, a browser refresh is going to fix just about anything. But if those tech gremlins are clinging on, no problem. Just throw a comment in the question section and our crew will be there to help. We also want this to be an informative webinar for you. So throughout today's MegaCast, we hope you'll get engaged and ask all of your burning questions. Not only will we have team members responding to you over live chat, we will also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of our presentations. And if we do not get to your question during the webinar, don't worry, because the awesome experts that we have here with us today will be following up with you after we wrap. All right, next up on our tour, there are going to be lots of cool aha moments in the MegaCast today, and if you want to share those with your community, we've made it nice and easy for you. You can use the Twitter button right there in your audience console, and the hashtag for today's MegaCast will automatically get added to your post. And our last stop on this guided tour, be sure to check out the Handouts tab for some resources and takeaways from our speakers here today. We have an info pack collection of solution briefs, white papers, data sheets, free trials, ebooks, upcoming webinars, and more. So many great resources, so be sure to go explore. And if that wasn't enough fun, we also have some exciting prizes we will be giving away throughout the MegaCast today. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about those later on, but a few quick reminders for you all. You do need to be in attendance here live at the webinar in order to qualify to win a prize, and we will follow up with all winners after we wrap the MegaCast today. Now, all winners must submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. Now, hey, if you're not sure what those are, no problem. You can find the full T's and C's in that Handouts tab. Again, just click into the Handouts section, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll find the full T's and C's waiting for you there. Now, the absolute most important thing to remember here today is that we love getting all your insightful questions during these live webinars. In fact, we love it so much that we have a special additional prize for all you inquisitive folks out there. In today's MegaCast, we will be giving away a prize for the best question asked in each of our sessions. Now, the expert speakers and teams will review all the questions asked after the webinar, which means that even if your question does not get read out in a live session, there is still a chance to win. If you are a lucky winner here today and would like to donate the value of your prize, we have several wonderful organizations that we partner with. So let us know when we follow up about winning, and we will get that rolling for you. Again, we are so happy to have you all here with us live at the MegaCast today, and we want to keep that good feeling going. So let's connect on social. Reach out and connect with Actual Tech Media on Twitter and LinkedIn. We have lots of great content, and we always want to hear from you. Now, if you're looking for more awesome content right away after we wrap, you want to jump right in, make sure that you subscribe to the Actual Tech Media channel on YouTube. Another fun way to win a prize and to grow this awesome community is to refer an industry friend or coworker to the Actual Tech Media webinar series. Now, you're going to find a link to do that right there in that Handouts tab, and you will also be automatically redirected after we wrap today. Now, both you and your coworker, your friend, could win a prize, and we actually hold those drawings every month. So be sure you refer somebody awesome before you head out today. It could quite literally be a win-win situation. Next, we have a cool opportunity for the decision makers out there to get connected with new and emerging tech and innovative vendors. Here's how it works. All you need to do is click on the link in your Handouts tab and fill out the application. Then the Actual Tech crew will match you with some vendors that we think you should be chatting with based on your needs. There will also be fun opportunities that you can choose to join in, like surveys or test running new solutions, extended demos, and so on. You'll get some chances to win extra prizes, you'll chat with great people, and you will learn about the hottest new trends in tech. So be sure to apply, or hey, send that link to a decision maker in your team. Now, I want to take a quick minute here to remind you about one of my favorite resources, and that is ransomware.org. You can find everything you need to know about ransomware, how to prepare, how to prevent and recover. The site is jam-packed with information, helpful tips, checklists, strategic approaches, case studies, everything you need in one place. So wherever you are in your ransomware preparedness journey, there is something for you at ransomware.org. So go check it out and start exploring. All right, I have one more exciting resource I have to tell you about today, and that is the Gorilla Guide Book Club. It's going to give you access to free enterprise IT books authored by top industry experts, so you can stay up to date on trending enterprise technology. And yes, these books are going to work on your Kindle, your mobile device, and they are completely free, super easy. You can download these awesome resources at gorilla.guide, and there's a link for you in the handouts tab as well. Okay, well, we've covered a lot of important things already, and I don't know about you all, but I am excited to dive in. So let's get rolling.
I agree, Jess. Let's get rolling, folks. Hello and welcome to the Actual Tech Media MegaCast. Today's topic is from the data center to the cloud, optimizing and modernizing IT infrastructure. I want to start by saying a big thank you to all you attendees for joining here today. On this MegaCast, we have got a killer lineup of companies who are leading the way into this brave new world. They include Catchpoint, Keeper, Scale Computing, Commvault, Pure Storage, CyberArk, Nutanix, and Quantum. Whew, that is a lot of goodness coming your way. And with that many companies, folks, this is going to be a long and awesome day. So get comfortable, get coffeeed up. I have got my Los Pollos Hermanos coffee mug right here next to me. Those of you who are Breaking Bad fans will get that reference. So get ready to go. Prepare for a fantastic event. So, as many of you know, my name is Keith Ward. I am with Actual Tech Media, and I am thrilled to be your moderator for this incredible MegaCast today. Other colleagues on the mod squad, as we call ourselves, are Jess, who hopefully will get out of that brick room soon, as Justin mentions here in the chat. Scott Becker and Mackenzie Pudici are also mod squatters, and Jess and Mackenzie will be showing up later for some Q&A. So stay tuned for that. Now, in addition to the content we've got coming your way, we are handing out an incredible array of prizes. Now, Steve had mentioned his excitement for the Amazon $300 Amazon gift card. We have got, wow, a whole mess of those today. 8, I think, is what we've got. So about every 30 minutes, one of you is going to get one of those. Now, we are also giving away 5 Kindle Scribes. Now, these Kindle Scribes, if you haven't seen them, are fantastic note-taking and reading devices. And I would love to win one of them myself, but I am not eligible. So I believe that's totally unfair, but there's not a lot I can do about it. So anyway, if these prizes are whetting your appetite, stick around. And remember that you do need to be here during the entire event to be eligible, as Jess mentioned earlier. So if you all are ready to go, let's kick this sucker off. Joining me here in just a moment is going to be the one and only Dan Sullivan. He and I are going to set the table for the event, giving you some overview information, and Dan is ready to go. So we're going to get into that right now, folks. Okay, so let's get going. Joining me now is Dan Sullivan, a data architect, data engineer, cloud architect, writer, and frankly, uber expert on the topic we're looking at in this MegaCast today. Dan, welcome. It's always a pleasure to have you here.
Hey, Keith, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So let's dive in on this topic of optimizing and modernizing IT infrastructure. First on the agenda for you, what are the risks of continuing to work in an on-premises only environment? So this is obviously aimed at those folks who are still kind of on the fence and not sure whether they should even do this at all.
Right. Yeah. No, and that's understandable. There are a lot of questions that you need to answer before you move to the cloud, but really some of the big issues around staying on-prem focus on really about scalability, the ability to basically have access to infrastructure and services as well. This is especially important at the advent of generative AI. We don't want to necessarily want to, build up our data centers to be able to use some of the modern AI services that are available. So definitely the flexibility that comes with being able to adapt additional infrastructure on an as needed basis, using a sort of pay as you go model, and pay for what you need, not what you can purchase and have to, install and manage. There's also risks around costs because the more infrastructure that you have to manage, the greater costs you're going to incur from both like a capex kind of perspective, but also from an operational side. There's a lot of management overhead that goes into managing infrastructure on-prem, and what cloud providers have found is that the economies of scale really work in the favor of cloud providers who can provide infrastructure, platform services, software services to their customers, and basically take some of the overhead work away from their customers. But if you stay on prem, you're basically keeping that work sort of in house, that responsibility in house.
So then, following up on that a little bit, what if you're a small little shop and you feel like you don't need that kind of scalability? Are there still advantages to going up to the cloud, either in an all cloud or some kind of a hybrid environment?
Yeah, oh, definitely. In fact, the advantages maybe for like a small organization that doesn't need, the hyper scalability that a multinational might need. The advantages of moving to the cloud is that you're basically leveraging the expertise, the technical engineering expertise of the cloud provider to do a lot of the things that you would have to do, for example, managing a database or setting up your monitoring and logging system and making sure it's working and troubleshooting it when something goes wrong. So really, if you're say maybe a smaller or a mid-cap size company, the advantages might be more around the automation and the reduction in sort of infrastructure management and platform management that you see when you move to the cloud.
I guess that's true. And when you're a small shop, maybe even a one person shop, it's going to be really tough to do all the jobs you need to do in the course of a day.
Yes.
Because even if you're not on, up there in the cloud, everyone else is, and there's a lot more tax and things like that. So,
Yes.
moving on here. So, a lot of people are scared because of how disruptive they feel that this kind of a move can be. So, in your opinion, Dan, is it necessarily disruptive to operations to implement cloud only or hybrid architecture?
No, no, it definitely doesn't have to be disruptive. I mean, it's new, so there's some planning, some organizational issues, but it definitely doesn't have to be disruptive. And I would say the key way to approach it is to migrate incrementally. So you may have a workload that runs on premises. Maybe you have some analytics or a data warehouse. Those typically have a few different sort of parts of the workload. You extract some data, you do some transformation, you load it into a database, and then people access it using reporting tools. Well, maybe you keep that workload, the first parts of that workload on prem, but then you maybe move the data, the final data landing to the cloud and your BI reporting tool to the cloud. That allows you to start learning about working in the cloud. So you'll learn things about how are you going to set up your networking, how are you going to manage identities, what about observability like monitoring and logging. So so it doesn't have to be disruptive if you do it incrementally and you basically understand you're going to learn as you go. And we all make mistakes when we're first getting into the cloud and even after we've been in the cloud a while. But there are definitely techniques, there are good practices that have sort of proven themselves out over the years about how you can migrate to the cloud incrementally and minimize disruptions. So I would definitely advocate for practicing those.
Exactly. You don't to put it in kind of IT buzzword sorts of terms. You don't have to drink from the fire hose, do you, Dan?
Right.
I mean, you can turn that stream down and just take on what you can handle. Today, for example.
Exactly. It could be something as simple as just storing your backups in object store in a cloud storage system. And again, you'll learn about networking issues and some of the security issues. And it's a great way to kind of incrementally build your knowledge base and your skill set within your organization.
Right. Okay. So, um, everybody is, of course, talking about AI right now, and that is a big part of modernizing and optimizing. So,
Mhm.
how much is that involved in kind of the infrastructure right now when it comes to optimization? So, is AI really big right now? Are we kind of at the beginning? How much is it being used in your estimation?
Well, it's definitely being used, and we're seeing cloud vendors, again, adopt it pretty aggressively. Sometimes it's being built into their services, especially around things like data management and optimizing data, how data is placed, how data is summarized and organized, and how do you make, say, queries efficient so people aren't waiting for their long running queries. You also see it with regards to supporting people who are maybe system administrators or they're responsible. There's a lot of support in the cloud when you're actually doing cloud engineering or cloud architecture, having access to AI to provide advice, templates, and generate, for example, scripts for you to help you implement some of your cloud operations. We also see it, I think some of the biggest areas we'll see it are around cost optimization. And that ties in with performance. If we get good performance, we minimize the resources that we need to use for particular workloads, then we're going to be paying less. So I think AI is definitely coming in a few different areas, and I think it's only going to accelerate as time goes on.
So you mentioned a couple of those ways you see it doing even more in the future. Can you let's talk for a minute about some more of the ways. What do you think, from your perspective, are some of the most exciting ways that AI is going to be leveraged, even if it's not being leveraged that way right now? What do you see coming down the pike that really kind of juices you?
Well, the most interesting thing, well, definitely the cost optimization. That's just gonna keep growing because that is probably the single biggest pain point I hear about for being in the cloud. So that's definitely one. I think another is the automation around operations and site reliability engineering. Some of us who work, with infrastructure a lot and platforms a lot, we spend a lot of time responding to alerts, and so basically being able to monitor and understand sort of the ebbs and flows about how different workloads and the mix of workloads that we have, and where do things sort of start breaking down when we start pushing things, past maybe the boundaries of what we expected. So some of I think the AI will be applicable around helping us understand our workloads so that we can optimize our infrastructure configurations and also prepare for them. I mean, one of the huge advantages that AI brings is the ability to do predictive analytics. So if we can understand, we might expect, for example, analyzing time series data, that we might have additional workloads coming in. We might be able to scale up prior to the workloads coming in so that we actually get better sort of service level performance that we're providing to our customers because of AI. So I really do think AI is going to sort of permeate the spectrum of the different services that we're responsible for, from the infrastructure and keeping it running all the way through to optimizing how we deliver services and what it feels like as a consumer of the services we provide and improving it for them.
So then, final comment here, and quickly then, Dan, do you see AI as being more evolutionary or revolutionary in the terms that we're talking about today? Optimizing and modernizing IT infrastructure.
Yeah, I think it's definitely starting in the evolutionary perspective. There's not going to be a big bang and all of a sudden there's a general AI that can, manage everything for us. It's going to make our job easier, and it's almost like a more of a collaborative thing. It's like it's as if we hired somebody who has a lot of knowledge, doesn't necessarily know our organization or what our business objectives are, but can help us with a lot of like the technical implementation details. So we get to spend more time thinking about strategy and objectives and how we measure success from a customer perspective. So I think, we're definitely going to see more of that kind of focus in AI and AI delivering value in those kinds of areas.
That's a really good point. So for those who are in the back end, if you will, in the infrastructure space, it
Mhm.
may not feel as earth shaking as some of the like AI generated movies and things, that we see now, that everybody is talking about, and how lifelike and realistic generative AI is. But it's still hugely important and is going to be going forward when it comes to these kinds of things that we're talking about today. Dan, this has just been great stuff. And I love that it leads us right into the rest of this awesome megacast today. Thank you so much for your time and insights today.
Thanks, Keith. It was my pleasure.
It is always good to chat with Dan about anything related to cloud optimization, all of those things. He has so much knowledge and is so generous about giving his time for these keynotes. So thanks again, Dan, very much. And I've thrown up the first of many poll questions you're going to see today, folks. Before we get to our beginning session, our first session, please vote in this poll. We are asking, what is your time frame for adding new or updating existing IT solutions at your company? We want to know if you're at the beginning, halfway through, if you're pretty advanced, or if, heck, maybe you're not doing it at all yet. All of this stuff is really valuable for us to have. So please keep voting in that poll for another minute or two. We're seeing Not Sure as the leading vote getter right now. So that's really interesting. The next, let's see, the next most popular is 12 to 24 months. So you're kind of far out. 6 to 12 months and 0 to 6 months are running neck and neck. So a bunch of you have projects in the pipeline as well. And as some others are still kind of deciding where to go next. Thank you so much for voting and keep doing that. You're going to have more opportunities today, I would imagine, to give us this kind of really important feedback. And with that, folks, we are going to get to our first presentation in today's MegaCast. Yay. And that is brought to you by Catchpoint. And presenting for Catchpoint are Mark Taller, Product Marketing Director, and Shri Sugarkar, the VP of Product. I've talked with them before, and they are fantastic at presenting the information. Thanks for being here today, gentlemen, both of you. They are queued up and ready to go. So, Mark, I am going to turn this over to you right now.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today, and we're going to talk to you about how you can optimize your cloud investments by monitoring where it matters. My name is Mark Towler. I'm a product marketing director here at Catchpoint, and I'm joined by my resident genius colleague, Shri Sugarkar, who is the VP of Product Management at Catchpoint, who will be showing you some demos. So with all that said, let's dive right in. First of all, you probably don't have a network the way you normally think about it. The internet is now your new network. Doesn't mean you don't have anything, it's just you've outsourced a lot of it. Almost every network is using some form of third party, usually cloud-based. So you may have outsourced your CDN, you may have outsourced your data center, you may be using AWS servers all the time. It's almost impossible to have one compiled network that is all yours, that's in-house, that you can see into, that you control. That's very 1980s, 1990s, maybe late 1990s. Everything's changed. And that's for the good. The internet is everywhere. The internet is fast. The internet works quite well, except when it doesn't. In fact, it's actually quite complicated and very fragile, and you've lost a lot of visibility as part of this transition. Why? Well, because we have this thing called the internet stack, all right? And the idea here is all of your useful and valuable applications that you care about, that you want to provide to your users and your customers, and users that are even machines, are sitting there on the top layer, all those applications. That's what people want to do. People at the very bottom are your users. That's the LAN, that's the SASE, that's the last mile, the wireless people, the backbone. This is where people are getting onto the internet to get access to you. And every single one of them has to go through multiple layers of protocols, of internet core solutions, of all of those cloud services, often media and ad systems as well, to get to the applications that they want and that you want them to reach. Your problem here is you're probably only able to see the top one, maybe two layers, and you might have a little bit of insight into the third one depending on the cloud solution you're using, but none of it's consolidated. And every single time someone enters the bottom of the stack and tries to work their way up to the top, they may very well be taking a different route, and it's all happening tremendously quickly. And if they're not connecting, or if their connections are slow and painful, then you've got a problem, and you may not know. Well, you're not going to have a problem, right? Wrong. It happens to the biggest organizations, and not even your organization necessarily. Perfect examples there on the right. Fastly, Cloudflare, Akamai. They go down, they take down hundreds, if not thousands of websites with them, and you're never going to necessarily know. All you know is people can't get to your website. How do you figure that out? Well, it's not a matter of if it happens to you. It's a question of when it's going to happen to you, for how long is it going to happen, how often are you going to be dealing with that outage, how bad is that issue going to be, how much is it going to cost you, and of course the most important one, who's going to get fired for it. So the answer to all of this, now that I've scared the pants off of you, is something we call internet performance monitoring. And it's very simple. We're providing visibility into the entire internet stack. So you can see all of those users, whether they're customers, whether it's your own workforce, whether it's other applications, whether it's parts of the network, or whether it's a website. You can figure out the experience of all of those users to know that they're being treated well, they're getting a performant solution, they're getting the kind of response and lack of lag that they're looking for, and that everything's working. And why can we do this? Well, here's the key. And this is where we talk about monitoring from where it matters. CatchPoint runs the world's largest observability network. There's a big number there in the middle, 2,644 nodes. Or vantage points rather. I wouldn't even keep track of that at this point. We usually talk about 2,700 plus. We're always adding new ones. And the whole point of this is, wherever your user is, and again, user could be a machine, but wherever that user is, you want to be able to monitor from where they are all the way through the internet stack to see if they're having a decent experience. Now, if you're just looking at your own servers, your own solutions, your own systems, all in your hometown or in North America, let's say, that's not good enough. There's someone in Tokyo who's having a problem, and you're never going to know, unless, of course, there's a node in Tokyo that we're able to allow you to monitor through. So we have more of these than anyone else. We are not running them on any one particular cloud service. Some of our competitors do, and when that cloud service goes down, they go down. We're completely independent. We are completely unbiased, and we are completely reliable, and we are everywhere. So what that allows us to do is monitor from where it matters, and you can see exactly what's going on for every single one of your users when they go through the internet stack and when they impact all of your cloud services. How does that help you? Well, for that, I'm actually going to pass things over to Shri, and he's going to walk you through it.
So in the journey to cloud, when we talk to our customers, depending on where the customer is in the journey to cloud, we observe different customer needs. And these days, depending on who you ask, if you ask some of the cloud providers, they will say the cloud is just in the first or second innings in the baseball terms, right? Whereas if you ask some others, they will say we are bringing workloads back from the cloud and on-prem, right? So depending on who you talk to, different answers. But when we talk to our customers, we observe that there is a spectrum of needs from the journey to the cloud, right? The first one begins with, let's say you have decided to go to the cloud, and now you have so many different options, right? There is AWS, there is Azure and Google as the top three clouds, but at the same time, there is a long tail of other clouds like IBM, Oracle, you name it, right? So vendor selection, how do you choose the best cloud vendor for your customers as well as employees, depending on whether the application is for your customers or employee base, right? And there, I'll go into each one of these details in the next 3 slides, but that's the first question, right? Which cloud vendor do I choose? Or if we are going to do multi-cloud, which cloud vendors, right, do I choose? The second one is around rollout and deployment. Once you have chosen the cloud providers, right, or cloud provider, depending on whether it is multi-cloud or not, then the CIOs and the organization typically want to de-risk any digital transformation, right? And journey to cloud is one of the most complex digital transformations that anybody can take over, right? And how can you make sure those projects stay on time and on budget, right? How can you de-risk that from a troubleshooting and other perspectives? And last but not the least, once the rollout and deployment is complete, you're not done. As Mark just said, internet is complex and internet is your network. How do you continue to monitor your customers or employees are getting the best performance day to day? So I'm going to double click into each one of these three, and then I will end showing a quick demo that encompasses some of these customer needs and use cases. So moving on to vendor selection. If you talk about vendor selection, I think, as I mentioned, there are a large number of options available to you in terms of cloud vendors, in terms of the geographies they're present. And I would like to give an example here. One of our media customers, they had this question: should I host my cloud location in Miami or in one of these South American regions where their customer base was, right? And if you look at some of the cloud costs, right, the prices that are there for different regions, the clouds vary widely in terms of the cost or in terms of the price you have to pay for those cloud locations. So for example, between Miami and one of the South America locations, we observed that there is sometimes 10x difference depending on the cloud in terms of the price you will pay, right? So we were able to help that media customer by saying, even if you host either in Miami or one of the South America locations, the performance differentiation is not going to be that big. So do you really want to pay that 10x cost, right? So there's a lot of questions like that, and then troubleshooting as well as some KPIs, right? What are the KPIs for your customers or employee applications and how that impacts your vendor selection? So we do all of that baselining from a performance, availability, and the internet resiliency perspective. We are the experts on that. The second phase is once you have decided on which cloud vendor you have selected, right? How do you de-risk? Like, how do you keep the project of cloud migration? Or if it's the other way around, right? Going to hybrid cloud or whatever, right? Whatever cloud related journey you are on, how can you de-risk that digital transformation, right? And one thing we clearly hear from our customers, and Mark will be sharing some of the customer testimonials later, troubleshooting or fault isolation from end user all the way to the application in the cloud, right, is a tough task, right? A lot of times you don't have visibility, but we provide that visibility starting from the end user going through the network, which is the internet, right, and all the way to the application, right? And then not only that, during the rollout, you want to make sure that when you go to the cloud, the performance that you are providing to your customers and employees for that application is not degraded, right? So you want to do that before and after baseline performance measurement. And in a lot of times, you're depending on your application tiering, a lot of critical applications will require some kind of SLA management, right? So doing all of that during rollout and deployment, right? Now, once you have done the rollout, and then you are into a day-to-day operations perspective, right? Again, the end-to-end visibility becomes extremely important, right? The reason for that is your users, if it is an employee-facing application, your employees could be working from home. If it is a customer-facing application, customers could be buying from an e-commerce site, for example, from anywhere in the world, right? How can you do that end-to-end troubleshooting? We introduced a product called Internet Sonar to the market. I'll be talking about it in a minute on the next slide, and I'll also be showing you a demo. What Internet Sonar helps you answer is it me or is it one of the third-party services in the internet stack that Mark talked about, right? Incident management is extremely important. Do you want to avoid all those war rooms that happen, right, when there is an incident? And obviously ensuring performance per SLA. So with those, like vendor selection, rollout and deployment, and then everyday operations, I'll quickly talk about one of the new products that we launched. It provides you, it's called Internet Sonar, and it provides you the live global view of third-party internet outages. And when I say internet outages, it goes back to the slide Mark showed where you had different services in the internet stack, right? And it detects, so what we use is billions of tests that run on our platform. We anonymize the customer information and we use that data to detect outages. We apply intelligent algorithms to detect outages for those services in the internet stack, right? You can also get the information about internet stack via APIs and other things. But the main question it answers is it me or is it someone else, right? Is it me or is it one of the third-party services in the internet stack, right? Not only that, it allows you to drill down. I'll show you in a minute. With that, I'm going to quickly switch to the demo portion here and show you quick snippets of the demo. So the first part of the demo, going back to Mark's slide where he showed 2,700 or so nodes. As you can see, this is the live map where our nodes are located. And as you can see, the geographical distribution, right? Everywhere in the world, right? Wherever your customers or employees are, we have presence with our nodes. And that allows you to check that experience of the customers and employees. And why is this important from a cloud perspective? Because when you're in the journey to cloud, you want to make sure the customer and employee experience is maintained or improved when you move from on-prem to cloud or the other way around. So going back to that use case I mentioned about the media customer, so what you can see here is I'm showing the performance comparison between AWS and Google. So on the left-hand side, you see the AWS cloud comparisons and Google on the right-hand side. So what you see is I was saying about the performance for a cloud. So for example, in Toronto, AWS is having certain behavior, whereas you can see here, Google, for example, is in Amsterdam having some behavior that you need to be aware of. And this is the proactive testing that we perform on our platform. You can run tests. And for a customer perspective, for a customer facing application, or for an employee, right? So let's say your employees are based in India and you want to know which is the best cloud location that you can choose or cloud vendor you can choose. So you can run these tests proactively during vendor selection. So going back to the three phases, this highlights the piece about like the vendor selection. And I'm just showing the examples as AWS and Google, and these are limited number of tests that we have run. So don't take that I'm showing one cloud is better than other in this picture. But the main idea is we allow you to do those performance baseline measurements from a vendor selection standpoint, from a performance cost trade line perspective, and if you have any other challenges in that area, right? How can you be intelligent? Because once you choose the cloud, you're making a big investment, right? Have you made the right decision before that, right? So that's from vendor selection standpoint. The product I talked about, Internet Sonar, helps with the second and third phases we talked about the customer journey. So during the rollout and deployment, you want to know whether it is something like, is the issue you're having with the customer facing or employee facing application, is it related to your own application and code, or is it because of one of the third party services in the internet stack, right? So as you can see, some of the CDNs here, right? We use the data, as I mentioned, from billions of tests that run on our platform. And what this is showing you is at this point, looks like AWS CloudFront is having some issues. Akamai DNS is having some issues in certain cities. Globally, at a glance, giving you a view. So during the rollout of the cloud, right, and deployment, let's say some of your customers start complaining, saying in US, Mount Laurel is where some of the users and customers or employees are complaining, saying there is issues, and you're using AWS CloudFront, you have the ability to know that kind of scenario right away, right? So giving you that ability to troubleshoot and diagnose so that you can keep your digital transformation projects on track and on time and on budget. The last piece I'm going to show, which is similar again for the day-to-day operations and troubleshoot perspective, we have a product called Endpoint that you can deploy on your employee laptops. And what this is showing is from an employee laptop, it takes, going back to my mention about from the end user through the internet network all the way to the application, right? So what I'm going to show you here is how we provide that visibility. And one of the customer testimonials Mark will cover later today also highlights that. So what we do is we create what are called as experience scores based on how the endpoint is performing, how the network is performing, and how the application is performing, right? So at the endpoint level, what you typically could have is things like what is the CPU usage, memory usage, right? So all that information is tracked and showed because that could impact your user experience, right? The second thing we do is at the network level, right? We look at signal quality, and so network quality starts with your own local Wi-Fi network at home, through the ISP, through the internet, all the way to the application, right? So we track all of that, and we provide you not only trending, but where is the actual problem, right? And finally, going all the way to the application, as you can see, Bob, one of our employees, is using Portal app, which is our Catchpoint Portal app. Looks like Bob is also using Microsoft Teams desktop, right? So what you can translate this into is the application that you're migrating to the cloud, right? If you can test that application in this way, you will have the ability to know whether is it on the employee laptop, or is it in the internet anywhere, right? Wi-Fi or ISP or somewhere, or all the way to the application, right? And on the right hand side, you can see what are some of the key events, right? And that's something we provide you effectively in all those three phases of the cloud journey, right? Whether it is vendor selection followed by the troubleshooting during rollout, right? And finally, the day-to-day operations. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Mark to take us through some of the remaining.
Fantastic, Shri. Great demo. I'm going to swap over and bring things back. I will say this, though. Just a quick anecdote about that. I was once in a meeting with Shri, and I was experiencing some significant slowness, and Shri just jumped onto my laptop because I had an endpoint on it where he could see, and he said, "You know what? You are using about 96% of your memory. What on earth is wrong with your computer?" And I said, "Well, I have about 75 tabs open in Chrome," and that proved to indeed be the problem. But that's a perfect example of what I was talking about earlier, where if you don't have values in Tokyo, you have no idea if someone in Tokyo is having a problem,
Yeah.
either based on a local node in Tokyo or on a user in Tokyo who has a endpoint on their system. You're able to look at right from their computer, determine if this is a problem with their equipment, with their Wi-Fi, with their connection to the internet, all the way through that entire internet stack to see exactly where the issue is. And
And
that's the kind of visibility we're offering. Go ahead,
that's a
Sri.
great example, Mark. And I would like to add one more small one. So, same as that example. So, one of our customers, their CRO was working from home, and CRO wasn't able to use the Salesforce effectively. So, he would complain to the IT teams. And what the IT teams found with our solution was that the router that ISP had provided to the CRO at home, that router was dropping packets, causing a lot of issues, right? And once they replaced that router, the ISP sent a new one. I wouldn't name who was the ISP, but once they sent the new one, everything worked really great for the CRO, and he was able to meet the quarterly goals because he could access Salesforce effectively.
And not to turn this into a workforce monitoring presentation, but just a reminder. I mean, everyone went home a couple of years ago, and most of them didn't come back. So no one's just looking at the local network in the office or in specific offices. Everyone has scattered all over the world. So IT people who are responsible for keeping people connected have an exponential number of more different solutions, different endpoints, different pieces, different hops and steps throughout that internet stack that they have to pay attention to. So being able to monitor from where the user is absolutely critical in order to keep them connected. And of course, for everything else. I'm just coming right back to where we started here. When we're talking specifically about optimizing your cloud investment, these are some of the things that we're doing. And I know Shri walked through them, but it starts from right at the beginning. What's the best vendor? What's the least risky way to roll out? And of course, as we've been discussing, everyday operations. How do I ensure we've got internet resilience? How do I assure people connect? How can I assure that my network, my critical applications and systems are not just available, but reachable from anywhere in the world? So everyone needs this, all right? I know we talked earlier about how it's going to happen to everyone, not just the biggest, not just the smallest. Every customer needs some form of internet performance monitoring. These are three categories. We're in all of them. These are a bunch of logos you're going to recognize. This is just the credibility. We're not just saying this. There's a lot of people who believe it as well. And there's a lot of value here. Our top 7 customers generate over $2 trillion in revenue annually, and they represent almost 10 trillion in market value. So the people who rely on the internet rely on CatchPoint. Here's an example. Pete Charlton, he's an IT VP from TMNA Services. Had a few fun chats with him, but he gave us this great quote. CatchPoint's super impressive. I found it to be wildly useful. It saved me a considerable amount of ghost chasing. It's excellent. I think it's a total game changer from what I observed in my 25 years in IT for the desktop support space. I will also not necessarily attribute this to him, but there is a customer I won't name who has said to me, every time you make a new change or improvement in your system, I get a promotion. So we've got some very happy customers out there. Why us? Is there anyone else who's doing this? Not really in some ways. I showed you that slide on the global observability network. That's unique to us. Some of our competitors may claim to have 1,000 vantage points. We've got more than double that, and we're growing it constantly. That allows us to monitor what matters. Your users, whether they're machines, whether they're humans, whether they're customers, and we get to monitor from where it matters, right where they are, all right? So we can see exactly what their journey is like all the way through. And the goal of this is that we can then catch issues before they become incidents. Our guy in Tokyo, it may not be him, it may be a number of people there, and there's some issue where a local CDN is slow or down, or a local web server is slow or down. And you've got the option to look at that, see it coming before the customers or the users start to complain, and make whatever modifications you need to. And honestly, in the IT business, even just letting people know, hey, yeah, there's a problem and we're working on it, is 80 to 90% of the way to alleviating the pain, all right? We are the market leaders in IPM. Frankly, we created the category. As I mentioned, every business is depending on digital interactions, and they need to be resilient. Everyone has got APM, application performance monitoring, but as I mentioned, it's only showing you the top few layers of the internet stack. And 80% of your issues are happening elsewhere. You're spending most of your money on 20% of what you can see, and the other 80% of the problems are not being caught unless you've got IPM. And that's the only thing that's going to be able to catch those issues before they impact your business and before it costs you money, which is why everyone's using it. And with that said, let's go into the next steps here. If you want to see CatchPoint in action, there's a link right there. It's CatchPoint on-demand-demo. You can also just visit catchpoint.com, or you're welcome to just drop a line to us at hello@catchpoint.com. And with that said, give us a second, and we will start taking some of the questions that have come in. If you don't have a chance to stay around, thanks very much for joining us today. We really appreciate your presence, and we appreciate your time.
Okay, wow. Thanks for that amazing presentation, Mark and Sri. Now, unfortunately, we won't have time for Q&A with them today, but they will follow up on all the questions that you asked. And let me tell you, you guys asked a bunch. So great stuff here. Have no fear. They will be, you will be hearing from them. In the meantime, please vote in the poll question that is now up, asking what additional information you would like to get from CatchPoint about their solution. I also want to remind everyone while you're voting about the handouts. We talked about that at the beginning, and we have a PDF solution brief from CatchPoint about internet performance monitoring, so make sure to check that out for more detail. Thanks to everybody who's responding to the poll. We really do appreciate that feedback. We say it a lot during these events, but it is 100% true every time. This kind of interaction is really important to us. So I'm just going to leave it up here for another moment while we give away our first prize of the day. And as I mentioned, we've got a whole bunch of $300 Amazon gift cards, and we're going to give away the first one of those right now. So let's do that. The winner of the inaugural $300 Amazon gift card for today's event is Vinay Murli from Texas. Congratulations to you, Vinay. We'll be in touch very soon to get you your card. So with that, let's move on to our next presentation in this MegaCast. And this one is coming from Keeper. Now it shows Nick Emonson here as the presenter. Nick was not able to make it, so pinch hitting for Nick today is going to be the great Jonathan Padilla, solutions engineer. Jonathan has been on with us before, really knows his stuff, and so we are really excited about having him. Jonathan, thank you so much for stepping in here at the last minute, sir. The floor is now yours.
Present this information. I'm going to just quickly and swiftly present my screen out here. Again, my name is Jonathan Padilla, not Nick. Oh, you can call me Nick if you want. I am a solutions and sales engineer here with Keeper Security. And today we're going to talk about one-time shares, time-limited shares, and self-destructing sharing. And why would we want to do that, right? Why would we want to do that? Because there's information we'd like to share. in a time-limited fashion. And maybe we don't want the information either as well. Let's go ahead and share my screen out here real quick. I know we have PDFs up, but let's just focus on the matter at hand. Now, those familiar with our platform are familiar with our Enterprise Password Manager. It has a couple capabilities. But again, today we're going to look at time-limited shared and self-destructing shares. Right here in my folder, it's just a regular folder, I have a record already. Record, password, whatever you want to call it. Okay? And this record is what I want to share to someone that does not have a keeper account, number one. Number two, I want to do this securely because I want to share in a more cryptographic fashion. I don't want it to be so clear text. I don't want it just to be right over the web. So I'm going to take this information that I already have loaded. I have files. I got some photos in here, whatever, username, password. I could put more information in here if I wanted. I could put a plethora of information in here, but getting it shared is the secret sauce. So let's check something out here. Let's right click on this record. One-time share. Now this is really cool. I'm going to go ahead and create a one-time share. And I'm going to make it for, I could pick a canned time, but I'm going to make it for my own custom date and time. Okay, custom date and time. I'm going to go ahead and select, let's do Friday. Why not? By 12 p.m. That sounds reasonable. And create a link. Okay, cool. I have this URL I can go to directly, but the individual I'm going to share the information to, I have some options to get the URL that they're going to them. I can send them a QR code. That's nice. Get that scanned and pop it up from their phone. You can send them a nice email invite. Now I like this because I just like basic information. Send me the URL. I know where I'm going. I don't know how to use QR codes. Or last but not least, send it to me directly in any way, shape, or form. The URL through email, through some direct communications, Discord, Telegram, Slack, whatever you're using in your day. Let's copy that. Let's check it out. Let's see what the end user has available to them. Let's see what the end user has available to them over here. Cool. Nice. I have access to this information and anything in there. Files, photos, videos, credit card information, whatever you want to share. Okay, whatever information you want to share in a time-limited access. And the user has an allotted amount of time to use and get access to the information. Now, I know what you're thinking. Hey, that's a public URL. Isn't someone else going to be able to access this information? I want you to see something. Now, I'm going to simulate another user, someone else, a cyber criminal even, trying to get access to this URL and this information. Let me go ahead and open up. Let's do a new window here. Could be anything here. Yeah. Let's open up a new tab. All right, I'm going to get what's this? I can't get access to this. What's going on here? The record you're trying to access has expired, does not exist. But it does, Jonathan. We just got access to it. We did. And let me tell you what's going on here. So what's going on here is, and I'm going to be very clear, the first person that receives this URL and gains access to this URL, at that moment, key pinning, device pinning, and token pinning will happen to that user's device on that browser, for example. Let me put it in different terms. This record and this information will get super glued to you and your browser on your device in that session. And once it does, it gets super glued to you. No one else can get access to it, right? No one else gets access to it. It's key pin, device pin, and token pin to an individual user and some other user, or maybe even on the same device, a different web browser, which is considered a new device or an intrusion, will never have access to that. And now that's really nice. I'm comfortable that the information I am sharing to the said party, the third party, will be the only ones that will be able to access that information for the allotted time and keeping it secure. Now let's check out another share, a different share, okay? So yeah, the user will lose access to that information. Meanwhile, my vault will continue to have access to the information. This is great news. I didn't lose access to the information. Now, let's check out a different share though. I want to talk to you about self-destructing shares. And what could that be good for? Well, let's check it out. So, self-destruct, right? Self-destruct. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and next. Look at this. Let's look at this. All right. Create an expiring one-time share. Kind of like I just showed you. But in this instance, once the user gains access to that link, that one-time share, in whatever way, shape, or form, In that moment, their countdown is going to happen to the user. They'll lose access to it in 5 minutes, and this same record will get destroyed from my vault, from the individual's vault, the individual that's sharing the information out. Let's go ahead and set that real quick and take a look at what it looks like to truly understand it. Okay, so see, record will be deleted from the vault, right? When the link share expires, or once it's open, they'll have 5 minutes to gain access to that. Let's just throw a password in there, I guess. Yeah, let's do a passphrase. Why not? Cool. All right, just some information. Let's throw a file in there. Just throw something in there. Cool. All right, custom field. Well, let's add a quick custom field as well. Why not? Like maybe a pin or something, right? Like a pin number. Cool. All right, nice. Okay, 1 week, or you know what? I want to do a custom date and time. Maybe I want to be a little bit more expedient about this. Yeah, that looks good. Maybe some special notes, maybe about regardless. So I'm going to go ahead and share that now. Let's take a look at that. Now, it's going to look just like that one-time share. All right, let me go ahead and copy that. Boom. Copy link. Done. Let's get access to that link. Same process go. Key pinning, device pinning, token pinning. This record will get super glued to me in the information. Let me bring it up in a new tab. Apologies. Okay, cool. I have access to the information now. The countdown has started, as you can see here. After 5 minutes, I will no longer have access to this. It's going to get destroyed, kind of like Inspector Gadget. What if I left a little note in there of some special instructions, or maybe some files and some information I wanted to share out to the user? But this information is not so important to me. I don't necessarily need to keep it in my vault, nor do I want it, for example. And in that moment, you do see here that this record is going to self-destruct from my vault within the allotted time of which I put in here. I really like that. That keeps the clutter from happening and too much information happening in my vault. I can lose track of that information real quick. And also, if this was a shared folder, for example, and I'll state this real quick, touching on our platform for a moment. If I have this information in a shared folder, that may be shared, maybe I put it in the IT team folder. Okay, that may be shared to actual users here in an organization. Okay, so if I put it in here, not only would the third party lose access to it, but maybe my IT team that was working with the third party is going to lose access to that information too, because it's going to get deleted. They no longer need it. They're done with the project and they're done working with the third party on with our day. I really like that type of sharing, that type of access. It keeps my information secure, keeps the clutter down, and it keeps it from only being accessed to the users of which need access to the information, not a criminal, not someone else who has access to the platform but didn't necessarily need that information. Aside from that, that is time-limited access and self-destructing shares. I hope you enjoyed our demonstration today, a brief demonstration on what our EPM can do. And if you have a need for self-destructing shares, one-time shares in your organization, or if you just need a secure place to store your information, you take a look at our platform. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen at this point.
Okay, thank you for that great presentation, Jonathan. Always love the demos and all that. Seeing the product in action is just, you know, the best way to experience it, I think. So, thank you so much for the presentation and for stepping in at the last minute. We really appreciate that.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. It was my pleasure.
Okay. It is my understanding that you will not be able to be here for Q&A. Is that accurate, Jonathan? That you've got to skedaddle off to
I got a couple minutes.
Okay.
I got a couple minutes.
Well, I'll tell you what then. Let's ask a couple of questions then, and you just let me know when you are ready to go. So here's the first question for you, Jonathan. Is it only passwords, or can you self-destruct other types of records? For example, attachments, payment info, etc.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at some information here. And I'm going to share my screen back out if everyone doesn't mind here. And let's look at something real quick. Yes, you can easily, right, self-destructing records and information. It could be whatever you want, right? If you look at my Keeper Vault, if you look at my Keeper Vault, for example, you see I have documents. It could be videos, it could be photos, it could be whatever you wanted in here. It could be, if you look at our record types, we have all sorts of different record types in here. Server information, you just type anything in there. Okay, and this self-destructing, whatever you wanted to share, maybe your own record, has nothing to do with a record type in Keeper. You created your own record for something completely different that we don't know about. It doesn't matter. You're always able to set up, add self-destruct or a one-time share to any of that information. It doesn't matter what the information is. Again, Keeper, when you think about what it holds, it's not just password management. I like that question because it's like, oh, is it just passwords? Is this password manager just passwords? No, it's more, I wish I can rename our platforms like information management. It's any type of information you want to store and share securely, one-time share, self-destruct, whatever you need to do with it. Good question.
Yeah, absolutely. So another really good one. Obviously from an admin, it seems like when the access expires, is the admin notified to change the password?
That's a very good question. So the admin doesn't have to change the password because in some of these self-destructing records, what they're going to do is they're going to go ahead and set up a rotation on that information. So let's go ahead and check that out. You have a self-destructing record, but man, maybe on a scheduled basis. Okay, maybe after a week, a day, a month, a year. Oh, okay, that's a little silly. Maybe after a couple of minutes, an hour. For example, you're going to go ahead and have that information rotate right after they lose access. Yeah, I know they're going to lose access on this day and time, so I'm going to go and set up the rotation to happen on this day and time as well. So that's something your users can do to accomplish that. But Keeper is coming out with some other cool automated feature sets for that same functionality. Very good question.
Okay. Have you got time for one more, or have you got a split?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I'm going to keep going then because this is a lot of fun. All right. Here's the next question. Can you set sharing permissions to folders, or do those settings encompass the whole environment?
That's a very good question. One of the things that I'm going to use this word, and I'm not trying to come up with repeat a cartoon here, but it grinds my gears. It grinds my gears that I can't individualize or compartmentalize information within a folder and put restrictions on there. And I'm really happy to state, let me see if this is still open. I'll state it. I'll just answer it. I'm really happy to state Keeper has a trifecta effect when it comes to the information that's being shared to a group of people, a user, or a team. Okay, for example, let me go to final. I'm picking finance. I like finances. Why not? If we go over here, let's look at something. Individual teams or users can have their own permission sets. That's the first layer. Okay, I can add more than one group of people or not, but they could have their own individual permissions and settings. So the group setting has its permissions. The folder settings has its own permissions, as you can see here. That's really nice. Last but not least, the records themselves, rather being accessed by one group of people or couple groups or individuals, you can change these granularly. Like, oh yeah, they can edit and share this one and that one, but these two, no, I just want view only. Again, you can have this specific to groups of people. You can compartmentalize credentials, right? HR department gets theirs, the finance department, IT department gets their information. And you can get as granular as you want with the permission sets per group and individual.
And that is very good news. For sure. Okay, I think we've got one more here in the queue for you today.
Absolutely.
Is there a way to share the access where the temporary user can use the password but not see it? That's really important for a lot of environments like the one I am in right now.
Absolutely. Let's check something out real quick. And one of the things that I absolutely love about the Keeper platform is, let's look at something over here. Is I love sharing in secret, and sharing in secret that gets a little well, it gets a little special. Like how can you utilize the information? So let me just go over here real quick and just show you the very nature of it. If you wanted to share information, it does not matter what it was. To a website, to an Active Directory credential, to a server, to something, right? If you wanted to share information, you can turn on privacy screen, which states you won't be able to see the password, but you'll always be able to utilize it, whether it's to log into a website or web application, to connect to a server. All right, and if we look at this admin AD password right there, and we go over here real quick, you'll see how long and complex that is. And so if you look at the privacy screen, it's not masking, it's true privacy screen. And I'm okay sharing this information because this is test data. I'm going to rotate this password anyway. This is the length and strength complexity of the password. Okay, so that's how long it is. You see that this isn't even the same dots. I can't highlight, I can't copy, can't paste it, absolutely nothing. So yes, with privacy screen, you're always able to share the information to an individual, but they'll never be able to see the information. They can use it. And I love that. I love that question for several reasons. Number one, right, as an administrator, I can't copy, I can't paste this. That gets saved in memory. That's bad. I can't paste it somewhere else in clear text. That's bad. I can't save it somewhere else in clear text. That's bad. And when I leave the organization, I never knew the information to begin with, right? And so that's really nice as well. An administrator doesn't need to worry about, oh my God, I got to rotate 200 passwords. But if they do, as you can see, Keeper can handle password rotations. Last but not least, one of the things it also protects from is someone looking over your shoulder. Anyone that has access to clear text information, let me just state, like administrators, you administrators are the biggest targets for breaches because you are the ones handling this information and the criminals know it. So it's always best to handle the information as private as possible. That's why I love this setting. No one can look over my shoulder and possibly see it. Keep it in their memory. And so, yes, that's completely possible with our platform.
Yeah, exactly. And the admins, of course, are always the ones who are going to be blamed whenever there's a breach. So this is undoubtedly music to their ears. Yeah. Jonathan, well, again, this is an incredible job you've done here. I love you stepping in and knocking this out of the park. I'm enjoying my baseball analogies here now. So thanks again for your time today, and really enjoyed the presentation. And we are going to get back to our poll question here. Thank you for your time, Jonathan. Have a great afternoon.
Cheers. Have an epic rest of your day.
Thank you. Okay, folks, so we're going to go back to the poll question that I put up here before. I want you to keep voting about additional information you would like to see about the Keeper solution. And while you're voting on that, I do want to remind you that we also have got a PDF in our handout section about Keeper PAM security that you really should download now. And with that, I'm going to give away a couple of more goodies here. It is time for our next prize drawing. We're handing out another $300 Amazon gift card and a Kindle Scribe right now. So the winner of the $300 Amazon gift card is Charles Schaefer from North Carolina. And the winner of the grand prize, that Kindle Scribe, is Stacy Sanchez from California. Congratulations to both of our winners. Sit tight. We will be in touch about claiming your prizes. With that, let's get to the next session in our MegaCast today. We have got a session coming up from Scale Computing, and presenting for Scale today is Craig Theriak, the VP of Product Management. He's been with us before and is always a delight to have on. Craig, can't wait to hear what you are going to drop on us in terms of knowledge today. I am going to turn this over to you right now. Take it away.
Thanks so much for the introduction. Yeah, it's good to be back here. I would say be thinking of your next baseball analogy as I go to wrap up here. For the presentation today, well, first of all, let me just tell you who Scale Computing is, and then I'll talk about how I'm trying to frame this for the conversation around data center to the cloud. First of all, Scale Computing has been around since 2008 timeframe. We first shipped our HCI product in 2012, and since have amassed just thousands of really happy customers across pretty much any industry you can think of. Basically, anywhere where you have critical applications that need to stay up and running, and you've made the decision you have to run them on premises, we're a really good solution for that. So that's where Scale is in the space. We're headquartered out of Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm actually out of our San Francisco office, which is where we have all of our research and development. Of course, we've got offices throughout the world and customers also throughout the world. This is kind of how I want to frame the conversation for today. What you see on screen is what I call the edge computing spectrum, and you can really think of it like a spectrum of getting further and further away from the cloud, right? So you've got the cloud on one side, you've got core data center. The edge computing spectrum is anywhere outside of that, and the further you get out away, the closer you get to the people and things out there at the far edge, the less likely it is that you're going to have IT resources. The less likely it is that you're going to be able to handle issues that happen in the environment. And so, oftentimes when people are looking at spinning up a new workload, their first thought is, I want to do this in the cloud. And there's a whole lot of reasons you'd want to do that. And so it really comes down to 4, maybe 5 reasons why people are still running applications on premises today. And I'll lump into that both VMs as well as containers and kind of Kubernetes-based workloads. And those reasons are latency is probably the number one driver right now, especially for any greenfield applications. So the rise of intelligent edge and AI-based applications that are coming onto the market right now. That's a big driver, especially out at the far edge for low latency. Oftentimes those applications are generating a whole lot of data, and the bandwidth requirements to be able to send that back to a public cloud or core data center becomes a challenge. And so as a result, people run on premises for that. Regulation is another one that we see, if not actual regulation, interpretation of a regulation where somebody says, well, I'm in an industry or the data that I'm dealing with is personally identifiable information. I need to have this on premises for that reason. I would say another big driver that we see, especially in mid-market customers, is the cost of running in the cloud. And part of that is the cost of just lift and shifting an application as a VM into the cloud without doing the optimization that you would want to do to be able to run that efficiently in the cloud. Or it's the cost of refactoring an application to make that transition to run in the cloud. Those are really the main drivers that we see for why people would run on premises. There are so many benefits to running in the cloud. The question I like to ask customers is, why would you run anywhere else than the cloud? And those are the 4 reasons we commonly hear as drivers. The issues that you have whenever you decide, okay, I am going to run this on premises, it's going to be somewhere outside of that, cloud or core data center, somewhere out of over that edge computing spectrum, is, as I mentioned, there's limited to no IT staff. You have to roll a truck oftentimes to send somebody on site to deal with this. And so without any technical expertise on prem, it's a challenge. There are physical constraints, especially the further you get out to what I would call the far edge, where you're really close to those people and things that are interacting with the data. In physical constraints, it's everything from, having power that you can rely on. Sometimes it's the physical constraints of how large the form factor has to be of where this is going to fit. Sometimes people are deploying these in a closet, deploying physical assets under a desk somewhere. That becomes a challenge. There's also no security on premises oftentimes for these types of deployments. There's no tier 1 data center, like all the things you would expect from a tier 1 data center, of a badged person and people scanning in and out to be able to get to those physical resources, just does not exist the further you get out from that core data center and cloud. People do still have connectivity and outages issues. We've got several customers that are running on ships going in and out of international waters. And while Starlink is an awesome platform, it's not as reliable, I think, as some people want it to be. And as a result, they have to have some type of autonomy to be able to run on premises without that constant connection to the internet. And then I would say the last one is what I would call unpredictable demands. You might know what applications you have today. Maybe there's an application team that's told you they've got some Kubernetes-based workload coming. You're not exactly sure what that's going to be. You have to have an infrastructure that allows you to really react and proactively make sure that you're scaling out your infrastructure on premises to match whatever requirements and needs that are coming down the pike. Naturally, as a setup for what it is that we do at Scale Computing, we provide a solution to all of those problems. You need something that provides availability in the infrastructure to allow maximum uptime for the applications. It has to be simple to deploy. It has to be simple to maintain. You have to have visibility across that for kind of ease of management over time. Efficiency is king in this environment. You have to be able to run on smaller form factors that don't require the same level of power consumption It also, you don't want to waste resources, especially if you're in a distributed environment, which many of our customers are, retail environments where you've got hundreds and hundreds of sites. Every dollar you spend on infrastructure that is there just to satisfy the need of running that infrastructure, meaning the storage layer or the hypervisor or whatever it is that you're doing there, efficiency matters. And so you're trying to eke out every cent that you can from the infrastructure so that you can use those compute resources for running the applications. And then finally, flexibility. So as I mentioned, with unpredictable demands, whatever that next application is, you have to be able to react quickly to that. Ideally, you already have enough compute out there. You can just spin up another workload and life is good. But if you do have to make physical changes to the infrastructure, you have to add another node. You want the flexibility of knowing that you can just scale out the infrastructure to match those needs as time changes. So what I'm going to show you here today is a demonstration of our product. We call it SC Platform, and it's really made up of two separate software pieces. One is called HyperCore. That's the HCI product. And you can kind of see that in the center running on top of physical devices. This is just an example of a platform that we run on. I'll show a slide later if we have time to go through, 1U, 2U rack mount servers with full GPUs and giant implementations of SC Platform, but it scales all the way down to this smaller size, which is actually what I'm running at here in my lab next to me. That is where we're taking the storage and pooling it together, all the compute of that. We include a hypervisor and all the disaster recovery functionality you would need to be able to run both modern and legacy applications on premises. And then we pair that with a cloud-based orchestration and management tool that we call SC Fleet Manager. So that's where you're going to see me start. As I share my screen here, I'm actually going to log into Fleet Manager and we will run from there. So let me share my screen. Okay. All right, hopefully you'll see this now. I'm at fleet.scalecomputing.com. This is, again, our cloud-based orchestration and management tool. I'm going to go log in here with Google. And you'll see, here's a dashboard of all the things that I have within my fleet. And your fleet can be 1, 100, 1,000, it doesn't matter. It's a kind of a centrally managed and orchestrated tool. So here's my fleet of 36 clusters. I'm actually going to navigate here to what I call store 303, which is a 3-node cluster that happens to be sitting right next to me. I'll log into that. You can see some of the attributes of that. 3 nodes. I've got 2 VMs running. It's currently healthy. You can kind of see the metrics of CPU, RAM, storage utilization over the last, currently an hour, 24 hours, 7 days, whatever I want to dig into there. Each of these nodes has a single drive, a single CPU with either 4 or 2 cores, and I'm pulling all that together to be able to run these workloads down below. Now, here's a button up at the top that's called Go to Cluster. That's actually what we refer to as Secure Link. So all of the architecture of this is kind of an outbound communication from the on-premises cluster out to Fleet Manager. And so this kind of sets up a secure proxy service that allows me to connect into this as if I'm locally on the network. Now, I happen to be sitting physically right next to these, but I'm accessing this over that proxy service here, and I'm presented with the HyperCore user interface to be able to manage it here. There are 3 things I want to show off real quick. First one is I want to show off the simplicity of the product. Second, I'm going to show off the availability of the product. We're actually going to walk through a node failure. And the third one I'm going to talk about is the scalability. And then we'll go back into Fleet Manager with whatever time is left there to talk really about how all of this works in a multi-cloud platform environment where maybe you're running Azure Arc or maybe you're running Google Anthos or whatever your tool set of choice has been up to date. We try to play Switzerland on this. We want to be able to work with whatever CI/CD pipeline is already in place. We want to work with whatever tools you already have in place for identity management and that sort of thing. So let me first start by just simply creating a new VM. I'll give it a name, give it a description. I can tag it, which is just a logical grouping in the UI. I can select the boot type, carve up whatever resources I need for this, and then select the ISO and create the VM. So that's a pretty quick run through of creating a VM. I didn't have to do anything to, assign some amount of storage to this VM. All I did is just carve up and said, how much resources does it need? What's really handy about this is that you don't have to go out and get special certification to be able to stand up an environment like this. In fact, we support full zero-touch provisioning for the initialization of the cluster, right? So you start with within Fleet Manager, you can go through and say, I want to add a new cluster. You select whichever nodes that you want to be part of that cluster definition. put the IP addresses on these and click create cluster. And what that does is saves the configuration so that if somebody on premises plugs in the power and networking, you don't have to have the IT expertise. In fact, I was debating whether or not I'd show you a video today of my son, who was in second grade at the time, standing up a cluster on his own, where all he had to do was plug in the power and networking. He was very proud of himself for doing this. And I had already created the configuration. It sent it down, stood up the cluster, and then I was ready to, at this stage, start creating VMs on this. Another thing that's worth calling out here in kind of a multi-cloud environment is that all of the tools that you would expect to be able to use in this environment are available. So there's a full REST API here where I'm showing how to create a VM as a one-off through the UI here. Obviously, programmatically, you might want to do that in a different way. Maybe you're using the REST API. Maybe you're using our Ansible, kind of a Red Hat certified Ansible collection to be able to do that. We also have full cloud init support, so you can take a vanilla Ubuntu VM or whatever your Linux flavor of choice is, and assign that whatever user data, metadata, kind of run whatever scripts within that setup just programmatically without actually having to log in to do that. That all extends the full simplicity story of what we do here at Scale Computing with SC Platform. The second thing I really want to show off here is the availability of this. So, we talk through zero touch provision, you get it set up and it's really easy to have stood up, but what happens when there's a failure in the environment? And so I'm going to unplug one of the nodes from my cluster here and we'll just watch it walk through the process. So there are two, one of the questions we always get, and it may come up in the Q&A later, but the hypervisor that we include in this is called, it's a KVM based hypervisor. And we package that up along with a handful of other kind of open source components, but they're really two pieces of IP, really big pieces of IP that we have that come along with this. One is our storage layer. It's called Scribe, Scale Computing Reliable Independent Block Engine. And we have developed that storage layer to be consumed directly by that KVM hypervisor that we include in the product, which means that we can really, make sure that we are getting the maximum efficiency out of the storage stack as a result of that. The other big piece of IP is what you're actually seeing on screen here with this critical alert pop-up. This is our AIM orchestration layer. It's Autonomous Infrastructure Management Engine. And you can think of this as AI ops just built into the product, but it's very bespoke to this environment. It has a hierarchical finite state machine where we're modeling out what we think is happening in the environment in real time. And we compare that to the desired state of what it is we think you want to have happen in this environment. So obviously I've got these 3 VMs that are running across my cluster, including this new one here. I know that I want those VMs to be online. So as we walk through a failure, such as data redundancy is degraded, it's starting to recognize that it's unable to communicate on the backplane. It's unable to communicate in the LAN. It doesn't have access to both blocks of the data. We're wide striping across all the nodes in the system on the storage layer. It is then able to say, well, the desired state of whatever workloads we're running on that node that has gone down, it's still on. We still desire that to be running. So it automatically restarts those workloads elsewhere. That's the high availability piece that's built into HyperCore. And really what enables that is the AIM orchestration layer. Now, the last piece I'll talk about is scalability. And when we're talking scalability, there are really 2 different aspects. One is that, how do I expand my environment to allow for the unpredictable demands that might come in the future? That's a big one. And kind of the process I just talked through earlier of creating the cluster is very similar. You put a new node in, you put an IP address on that node, it will pull that node into the environment, and it doesn't have to match the CPU type. It doesn't have to match storage. And you can kind of mix and match to make sure that you are scaling out your environment to match whatever the requirements are of whatever new applications you're trying to run in that. The other piece of scalability is management at scale. And we have several customers out there that have hundreds and even thousands of sites. And as a result, they need to be able to monitor things centrally. So let's go back to our Store 303. And all of the critical alerts and everything else that we have that are coming from the cluster are also propagated up through Fleet Manager as part of that to give that centralized view into the world of what's happening. Because maybe this critical alert is important, but in the context of everything else that I have within my fleet, maybe it's not the most important thing that I have to spend my time on, especially knowing that we have high availability built in and we can restart those workloads without manual intervention. All of that can be taken care of. So I'll stop sharing there. That was a very, very fast demo, I would say. I'd welcome you to come out to the Scale Computing website and sign up for the weekly demo. We can get a lot more detail around this and really, talk through, whatever questions you might have. I'll end with just a few slides here and open it up for questions. First one, as I mentioned, what I just demonstrated was based on, it's actually an Intel NUC. Asus has since bought the NUC business, so all new platforms are going to be the Asus NUC, but we call it the AG150. That's our branded appliance on that small form factor on the left side. But we've got, I think, 10,000 plus iterations of HyperCore supported hardware out there, from 1U and 2U rack mount servers, GPU, all sorts of options there. And we will help right size to whatever the environment is that you have to make sure that you're not overbuying. You kind of buy what you need today, knowing you can make use of that scale out functionality in the future to purchase things from there. There are 3 success stories. Actually, I'm going to skip over this and just say the thousands and thousands of customers we have out there that are using the product are all very happy. It's that ease of use is really the main story you're going to hear. The other thing you'll hear as you start to look into some of the reviews of our product are things all around our support team. We have a phenomenal support team out there based in Indianapolis, Indiana. It's 24/7. They're there on the phone, ready to help wherever they possibly can. And then we've enabled the product with a lot of features to make sure that they have what they need. They can, as they get into the system, it's as if they're sitting next to you at the console without you having to send over logs and things that you might have to deal with other vendors. And of course, because we own the entire stack, we know it's on us to make sure that it's working. And I think our reviews speak for themselves related to that. And I will open it up to questions from there.
Outstanding, Craig. Thank you so much for that presentation. I know you said the demo was kind of quick, but for this kind of an event, I thought it was quite in-depth and detailed and really good stuff to see it working in real time. So thank you so much for that. I am going to now move to the poll question because we want to know what additional information folks would like about scale computing. So vote in that while we go through some Q&A. I also want to remind everyone that there is a great handout from Scale Computing about VDI. Yes, VDI. It is still alive and kicking out there. So check that out now while we go over questions. Okay, so first one up here today, Craig. What are the primary drivers for running applications on premises and, at the distributed edge versus running them in the public cloud?
Yeah, I kind of briefly touched on that on one of the slides. Latency is by far the biggest driver for any newer workloads. So kind of think computer vision, AI, those types of workloads. And the reason is you need to be able to make real-time decisions. That data has to live as close to the people and things you're making decisions about. So if it's predictive maintenance in a manufacturing environment, that has to be right there next to the machine. If you're trying to give a great customer experience with some kind of digital signage or application that is interacting with a customer in a retail environment, that has to be right there. Behind that, I would say bandwidth is another big one, just based on the volume of data that's being collected. Regulation, less so, although it comes up in interesting areas. Like we talked with it was actually another retailer, but dealt in, kind of home goods. And it basically, they were regulated by FEMA, where they had to stay open because they were considered critical infrastructure if there was a hurricane, which I thought was kind of an interesting interpretation of the law there for regulation for needing on-premises compute. The biggest driver in small and mid-sized organizations still is just the cost of the cloud. There's nothing stopping them from running in the cloud, but it's so much less expensive if you have the expertise to manage the infrastructure on premises that people would just do that. Especially if you're in an industry that has highs and lows, and maybe the budget this year allows you to actually purchase hardware, whereas if you had to sign up for a 3-year contract and continually pay year over year as an OpEx model, can be a challenge.
100%. And we're still seeing, a lot of workloads repatriated from the cloud due to exactly what you said, that the kind of sticker shock that can still happen these days. Okay, so next question. This one comes from Rick, who wants to know if you can dive into a little bit of the type of security technology that Scale has.
Yeah, in fact, we just had our platform event 3 weeks ago in Las Vegas at Resorts World Las Vegas, who's also a customer of ours who is currently running about 14,000 cameras for a virtual, video surveillance type of environment where they're monitoring a whole bunch of things. It's a really cool use case of that. But we're at that event, I did an entire session. It was a 45-minute session just on security and kind of how we have, really you can think of it as three different things. It's security by default. It's like we're trying to make the decisions within the product to make it easy to make sure that you have security up front just by the nature of how it's designed. Security by design is the second one, which is, just the fact that we are limiting things like I talked about how we have that scribe storage layer and how that is being consumed directly by the KVM based hypervisor. What I didn't talk about is if you look at that as an attack vector, that's so much smaller than what you would have in, say, a VSA model where you're using traditional storage protocols that can be exploited. And then the last one is just kind of secure it in the feature set that we have out there, which is, I think, probably the heart of the question, which is what do we provide for security? The first thing is you didn't see me log into this because you saw me log in using the IDP with Fleet Manager. You didn't see me log into that Store 303 when I went to that site, and that was because I had already logged in earlier today. But typically what we'll see is that people will use OpenID Connect, where we have an implementation of that allows you to, work with whatever identity provider you have of choice. Another way I thought about talking about today's conversation was the broader tool set of decisions you've made, such as that, and how scale computing can fit into that environment. That's another big one. Within the operating system itself, as of our 9.2 release, we introduced virtual TPM support that allows people to make use of in-guest encryption tools like BitLocker and Lux. And so all sorts of things I can go into related to that. Great question.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good to know that security is baked in from the very beginning and throughout the entire product. So next up for you, is there a limit to how many clusters I can manage through Fleet Manager?
That is a good question. I don't think we've documented an upper end. I think we have marketed up to 10,000, I think, somewhere out there in the world. And that's probably how many we have in our management within our own organization for internal testing and that sort of thing. So I imagine, we're talking thousands and thousands of sites to be able to access that. One of the really interesting use cases that is probably outside of today's scope is we have a lot of managed service providers that use this for remote management and monitoring of their clients' sites. And so they'll have, 100 different clusters out there on different networks. And so things like SecureLink, you start talking about the number of clusters you might have under management. In addition to that, you also have a whole bunch of different networks you got to deal with. And this, having SecureLink being able to allow you to get onto that site without VPN or any type of other setup becomes really powerful.
And that speaks loudly. Yeah. If you've got MSPs, using the product as well. Okay. Next up for you, we have time for a couple of more questions here today, Craig. Our attendee wants to know what types of applications can I run on scale computing hypercore?
Another great question. So pretty much anything that's x86 based is going to virtualize and run just fine. We typically see Windows-based VMs, Linux-based VMs of all different flavors. So far, I can only think of one application where you wouldn't be able to run it, and that was because the vendor it was a VoIP system. But outside of that one application, I can't think of an application that wouldn't work in this environment. Again, it's just, hypervisor these days has become commoditized, and as a result, that means pretty much anything will run and can run. What we're starting to see now is the adoption of Kubernetes and containers and having those run on the system. And there are all sorts of different flavors, K3S, Talos, all sorts of really interesting new workloads as well.
Right, for sure. Okay, looks like we are running out of time, but I have one last thing for you, Craig. If somebody wants to get started with scale computing, based on this presentation today, a lot of good stuff in there. What do you recommend they do for their very next step?
Well, I would come to the Scale Computing website. I mentioned earlier we do a weekly demo. I would welcome anybody to join that. Or if you just want to get your kind of hands dirty and start playing with this, we also have some options there. Our Showcase Edition, which allows you to either have remote access to something that we have running in our cloud that gives you the ability to kind of click around and get a feel for it, or we have a Workbench Edition that with the right hardware on premises, you'd be able to run that and test it out on prem as well.
Excellent. So several great options there. Craig, thank you so much for your presentation today, for the demos, for the Q&A insights. It was really a delight to have you on.
I enjoyed it as well. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And I am going to leave the poll question up there just for another minute or two. So please keep voting about getting feedback from Scale Computing and how you would like them to follow up with you, as we will do for any questions that we didn't get to ask today. In the meantime, folks, it is time for our next prize drawing. We have got a $300 Amazon gift card to give away. And this one goes to Joseph. Listen to this last name, Joseph Illuminati from Pennsylvania. Congratulations, Joseph. Assuming that you're a real person with a name like Illuminati, it makes me wonder, but we will be in touch about claiming your prize. So sit tight on that. All right, folks, let us move along today. We are making some good progress through the event, and we've got some more goodness coming in the form of a Commvault presentation. Presenting for Commvault today is Katie Colucci, the Associate Product Marketing Manager, and joining Katie for some Q&A at the end will be the great, the inimitable Jess Steinbach. So, Katie, welcome. It is great to have you here today, and I am going to turn this over to you now.
Thanks. Happy to be here. I'm Katie Colucci, and I'm on the product marketing team at Commvault, and today I will be sharing some best practices for optimizing and modernizing IT infrastructure. It's pretty clear that the world has changed from a security standpoint. The threat of ransomware is everywhere, including backup environments. It's not a matter of if or even when you will be attacked, but how long before you figure it out it's happened. Also, the prevalence and pervasiveness of AI have brought about a significant shift. AI-driven attacks can be very sophisticated. So while AI offers a tremendous opportunity, it also fuels the proliferation of threats. And finally, data is distributed across clouds, regions, and applications. It's led to hybrid chaos where ransomware thrives. Gaps and complexities arise in this chaos from the fractured tools many organizations use to safeguard their data. All these changes impact your business. As companies tackle these challenges, they find that the status quo falls short. The existing tools trying to support critical practices in light of these shifts just don't cut it. And the status quo falls short for a few different reasons. First, tool sprawl makes maintaining a cohesive and reliable resilience practice nearly impossible. The complexity of patchwork vertical solutions makes protection, especially across hybrid workloads, a monumental challenge. The second area where we see the status quo falling short is that many other vendors that are appliance-based, even if they're virtually appliance-based, make securing hybrid workloads and recovering massive amounts of data inefficient and often impossible. And to make matters worse, their limited hybrid support requires more tools for comprehensive coverage. And the result of these two items is that it's expensive. Adding more tools built on inadequate architecture makes data protection prohibitively expensive, forcing enterprises to choose between cost and risk. The conversation revolves around resilience. How do you stay resilient in these shifts and the challenges they bring? This most often translates into avoiding downtime, especially since the cost of downtime is staggering. So given that, what does resilience look like? It's not just about rapid and reliable recovery. After an attack, it's common to hear the question, do we have a clean backup? We believe this is the wrong question for today's threats. Instead, the question should be, can we recover within the business's time frame? Answering that question confidently shows strong resilience, and that starts before the attack and is an ongoing process across practices like understanding your risk profile and improving your data security posture, ensuring readiness with early warning of attacks, plus the ability to validate clean recovery points and test recovery before a cyber event, And then when it is time to recover, making sure you have predictable, frictionless recovery at any scale. In short, today you need an AI-enabled, cyber-resilient platform that helps you manage risk, readiness, and recovery. Let's start by exploring what's going on in the market. Hybrid cloud is top of mind for customers as they evolve their modern app and cloud strategies and consider how to evolve their businesses. The reality is that most companies are operating in a hybrid environment with data sources both in the cloud and on-prem, while the adoption of native cloud technologies and containers in the enterprise is increasing. So, while adopting hybrid cloud is fueling transformation, it's not without challenges. Data is in more places than ever, places you may not have had to protect before, like SaaS applications. You have developers working with containers, data spread between on-prem apps and cloud apps, and initiatives to migrate to the cloud. And all the while, your data needs to be safeguarded. At the same time, bad actors have increased their efforts, and ransomware continues to trend in the wrong direction, introducing more risk quickly to your business. And finally, the idea of doing less with more is familiar. Still, in a rapidly evolving business model, you are likely facing new challenges to controlling cost and reallocating your valuable time to higher value activities. Companies need agile solutions with simple management, flexibility for coverage at any phase of their journey, now and in the future, and they need to carefully consider how to safeguard their data against today's threats. And with that, let's take a look at how we can start to modernize and manage these environments. When considering how best to protect your workloads, look for solutions with the breadth of coverage and flexibility to safeguard everything from endpoints and SaaS apps to on-prem and cloud-based data. On-prem and cloud data should not require mutually exclusive cyber resilience and data security solutions. You should be free to back up and restore broad data types to the appropriate target, whether that's to the cloud or on-prem storage, and send secondary backup copies to cloud platforms for long-term data retention and air-gapped ransomware protection. This flexibility allows you to adapt to changing requirements, optimize performance, and avoid disruptions. Next, consider air-gap ransomware protection, which safeguards your company's data across multiple clouds. SaaS-delivered protection can create secondary data copies in resilient, immutable, and isolated cloud storage, ensuring that data remains unchangeable, isolated, and swiftly retrievable in the event of a ransomware attack. It provides an additional layer of security by creating a physical or logical separation between your production data and backup data. This makes it more difficult for ransomware to spread to backups and ensures a clean copy of data is available for recovery. Air-gap ransomware protection is typically delivered as a SaaS solution that can protect both on-prem and multi-cloud data. So this makes it a convenient and cost-effective way to protect your data from ransomware attacks. Some additional tips for implementing air-gap ransomware protection are to ensure that your backup data is stored in a geographically separate location from your production data, encrypt your backup data both at rest and in transit, and regularly test your air-gap ransomware protection solution to ensure it works properly. A comprehensive cyber resilience plan is essential for safeguarding your company's data across multiple clouds. An effective plan ensures that your data is protected against various risks, including hardware failure, software corruption, human error, and ransomware attacks. So let's look at some key considerations when developing a robust cyber resilience plan. You want to define clear RPOs and RTOs, choose the proper backup storage, implement appropriate retention policies, regularly test your plan, use an intelligent configuration wizard, and store backup data offsite. You're also going to want to avoid using many tools and platforms that create overly complex cyber resilience interfaces. A solution that operates through a single pane of glass dashboard protects all your workloads while your data security remains as efficient and comprehensive as possible. A unified solution provides critical visibility with the ability to manage data anywhere from one console. So you can get everything you need to modernize your cloud journey from a single vendor. Finally, being cloud ready means having the proper infrastructure, processes, and skills to use cloud computing. This is essential for those looking to safeguard their data across multiple clouds. As companies face rapidly growing data sets and evolving technologies, traditional backup methods must be revised. Without cloud readiness, your backups can slow down or fail to handle increased data, users, and diverse environments. A cloud-based cyber resilience solution can help you to be more agile and responsive to these changing data needs. So you can take advantage of the many benefits of cloud computing while safeguarding data across multiple clouds. And you don't have to worry about right-sizing your infrastructure because the backup system is elastic. It shrinks or grows as your needs do and is easy to implement. Across all of these suggestions, to modernize and optimize your IT infrastructure, Commvault Cloud offers the best, most comprehensive data security, unifying how you safeguard all of your data, no matter what it is, where it lives, or where you want to recover it in one powerful cloud. We offer the fastest recovery to accelerate rapid, clean recovery at enterprise scale, and we do it with the most intelligence, deploying advanced AI capabilities to strengthen and speed up your resilience practice, all in one platform built for the hybrid enterprise. And Jess, it looks like we have a few questions.
We absolutely do. Katie, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. We got a lot crammed in there, lots of great information. Sounds like there is no shortage of cool things going on at Commvault.
Absolutely.
Well, we've got some questions coming in from the audience, so I want to make sure we get to as many of those as we can. Katie, are you ready to jump in?
I am.
All right, let's start with this one here. Do we need to consider SaaS protection as well? Isn't it already protected? Oh, good question. What do you got, Katie?
Yeah, that is a great question. So despite continued adoption of SaaS apps, there is a growing disconnect around who is responsible for protecting the data living within them. And many organizations believe cloud service providers are responsible for both administering their applications and safeguarding their data, and that is wrong. The shared responsibility model is crucial in cloud security. It divides responsibilities between cloud providers and customers for securing data and applications. So providers secure the infrastructure while customers are responsible for safeguarding the data that lives in them. And data experts emphasize the importance of a proactive data security strategy, and leading cloud providers recommend implementing third-party solutions like Commvault to help.
Okay, great answer, and definitely worth thinking about. I'm just scanning through all of these questions here. I'm going to go to this one next, Katie. How does Commvault manage its security?
That's another great question. Commvault Cloud maintains a multi-layer approach to security, and we start with partnering with Microsoft Azure to build a robust, highly secure, and performant platform. And Azure provides redundant data centers with state-of-the-art physical and digital controls and maintains dozens of certifications, including FedRAMP High, across all Azure regions in the US. And Commvault Cloud is built on Commvault technology, which is proven highly secure in enterprise and government environments. And we have capabilities such as role-based access controls, auditing, integration with customer-owned authentication technologies like SAML, and encryption of all inter-service communications and data during transmission to ensure that customer data is handled securely. And on top of that, all backup data is compressed, deduplicated, and encrypted by default from the source, on the network, and at rest.
All right, gold star questions and gold star answers. Katie, I'm going to sneak in one more question here as we get to the end of time. You know, we get asked this a lot because folks are weighing through different decisions and solutions and finding the right tools for their organization. And so the question comes up, you know, how do I differentiate? And I'm wondering maybe if you could share, in your opinion, the unique thing that you're most excited about at Commvault.
Yeah, definitely. So one thing that I'm really excited about at Commvault right now is our clean recovery solution. Ooh. And actually, you can get started and learn more about it at commvault.com. And on the screen here, you can try Commvault Cloud free for 30 days and learn more about it. It's really exciting. And we also have a blueprint to the cloud that we've built out. If you want to learn more about how Commvault Cloud is enabling cyber resilience for the hybrid world. So definitely check that out, and it's available to download.
Perfect. Okay, so in terms of getting started, if somebody is really wanting to jump in with Commvault, they've got some great opportunities. Certainly reading the ebook is always a great way to start. Little afternoon light reading, and spending a little bit of time with a free trial, exploring the website. Is there anything else that you would recommend as sort of that first step?
Yeah, definitely. I would go to the website, check out our solutions, and then you can contact us there, or you could sign up for a free trial, for free 30-day trial using the link on this slide.
Boy, that really is the best way to get rolling. Hey, is spending some time, because you can hear about a solution all you want, but actually jumping in and spending some time exploring and that playing in the sandbox, so to speak, is just the best way to make sure that it's going to work for you.
Absolutely.
Well, Katie, I hate to say this because I'm really enjoying this conversation, and I know we've crammed a lot into a very short session here, but I think we're going to have to leave it there and keep rolling. But I want to thank you again for joining us. It's been so much fun chatting with you today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, and we're going to hand things back on over to the MegaCast. I think we've got a fun little poll for all of you out there. Let's get that up here.
We do indeed, Jess. That poll question is up right now. Thank you for that fantastic Q&A with Katie, and thank you, Katie, for a terrific presentation. Always love to hear what Commvault is up to, as Jess mentioned before. So make sure you vote in this poll about the additional information you would like about the Commvault solution here. And while you answer that poll and I give away some more good prizes, I'd like to remind everyone about the handouts. We've got an ebook from Commvault that details a blueprint to cloud adoption. Love ebooks. And this one is free, as all of our handouts are. So be sure to check that out for more detail. And as you continue to vote in the poll here for Commvault, we have got another $300 Amazon gift card to give away, along with another Kindle Scribe. So the winner of the $300 Amazon card is Alexander Weber from Illinois. And the winner of the next grand prize, that Kindle Scribe, is Jesse Sherman from Minnesota. Congratulations to both of you. We will be in touch about getting you those prizes ASAP. All right, folks, it is time for our next presentation in the MegaCast. We have now officially reached the halfway point of the event. That went by really fast. I hope you are having fun. I sure am. This session comes from Pure Storage, and presenting for Pure is Kevin Rickson, the Product Marketing Director. Kevin, it is always good to see you and have you on with us. You now have the floor.
Hi, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me here today. My name is Kevin Rickson with Pure Storage. I'm a product marketing director, and what we're going to be focusing in on is how you can manage your data just as if it's in the public cloud, even when it's on-prem, so that you can truly get to a hybrid cloud strategy that works for your organization. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's dive in and take a look at some of the different ways that we're being challenged here in IT to make sure that we're staying ahead of our different challenges. Now, on the left-hand side, frankly, anything on this slide is really not going to be a surprise to anyone in IT, but the demands of the business or your organization are always growing. And there are new challenges, new changes, new ways of using data, new requests, new markets being penetrated, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you have new technologies, things like AI, just the latest in a long line of giant cresting waves that are coming over IT and changing how we look at infrastructure. I mean, 10, 15 years ago, it was all about virtualization. 5 to 8 years ago, it was about public cloud, which we'll be diving into in more detail. But AI is really challenging, and especially when you take a look at how data centric it is. It's just yet another new way that we can be using the data that our organizations have been collecting and trying to figure out ways that we can get the right data and information to the right people. And then, there are outside pressures as well, things like growing regulations. And I think if we move over to the right-hand side, one of the areas where this is really being seen is in things like sustainability. Now, right now, most of that regulation is actually happening in Europe, in Asia, and other places. But, in the US, every organization has a, environmental, social, and governance initiative where they're trying to show what a great corporate entity they are. And sustainability is really a key building block of that value prop. And IT plays a role there. And so that is starting to affect more and more IT buying decisions around how efficient the infrastructure can be, how long it will last, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, financial costs, these are things that have been going on forever. Never met an IT executive that said they always had exactly the budget they needed, for all the projects that they need to do. And it just, grows at 50% or 100% every year. Making sure that we're aligning and getting the greatest efficiencies out of our IT endeavors has been a perennial focus for organizations. And, IT is seen as a cost center, not a profit center, even though it powers the entire organization. But, that's never going to go away. Data security obviously is just growing in importance. It's always been important, but with the rise of ransomware attacks, the sophistication, the use of AI in these attacks, making sure that we're truly focused in on securing our data has always been important. And then a concept we're going to go into in a little more detail throughout the rest of our talk today is the idea of technical debt. In essence, it's deferring, upgrading, and modernizing, whether it's infrastructures, applications, et cetera, because of the challenges involved, either the cost involved, the complexity, not having all the resources together. It's going to mean changing out, 5 or 10 other things at the same time. That just means that we keep falling further and further behind in our ability to, stay ahead of the technology curve and meet all the other challenges that we have. Now, the great thing is, and this is part of the reason why so many people have been including the public cloud, if not trying to move entirely toward it within their IT infrastructure strategy, is because it solves for a lot of these problems. And let's take a look at what a typical cloud journey looks like. Most of us, are somewhere in the middle probably on this. But if you're just starting out on your cloud journey, just be prepared for the fact that while it will solve a lot of problems, it introduces some new ones. And so just like with any new technology adoption, you see, initially hopes and, results are fantastic. And then a little bit of disillusionment trough can set in. It could be based on the high costs involved with it. It could be based on, added complexities and the fact that, you get some quick wins with some lift and shift applications, but then as you start looking at how you're going to modernize your entire application stack to really take advantage of the cloud, that creates other complexities and problems. And so, what winds up happening is more of a look at, okay, how do we define our cloud strategy? How do we actually form that? And, then the nirvana that a lot of organizations are starting to get to and seeing in their future is this way of looking at the cloud, not as a destination, but as a journey, and how it can inform even how we take a look at how our on-prem infrastructure should be set up. And what we wind up with is something that looks like, the graphic at the top of the screen, where public cloud is part of it, but there's also our on-prem infrastructure, which winds up operating more like the cloud to truly get to a private cloud type of infrastructure where, data and applications and everything are available, as services. And a lot of the economies of scale, et cetera, that we can get out of the public cloud, we can replicate, certainly from an ease of use, flexibility, and agility standpoint. And then we wind up with, a hybrid or multi-cloud type approach that is taking advantage of both of these. And that evolution, another way to think of it is what happens in each of these different phases. So as I said in the beginning, it's really about the easy wins, those workloads that really lend themselves well to the public cloud. You get them up there, get them running, fantastic. When you start hitting the trough of disillusionment, though, that's when it's time to be asking the questions here. What is it that we're actually trying to get to? What's our end state look like? How is the data actually being used by users? And that may help inform where it should be housed, where it should go. When does cloud make sense? We had some great wins out of the early stuff, but maybe some of these workloads just will continue to make sense to keep on-prem. And then what expertise is needed? And that gets us, as we're forming that strategy, 9 times out of 10 to a real hybrid cloud model, not everything in the cloud, certainly not everything on-prem. And then the real state that we're trying to look for, this cloud operating model that I was talking about, having on-prem feel just like it does in the cloud. What does that look like? Well, first of all, it starts with being able to manage your data. And again, I'm from Pure Storage. We're going to be focusing in primarily on data here today. How do you manage that across your entire data estate? Again, whether it's in public cloud or whether it's on-prem. It's difficult enough a lot of the times just to be able to manage your data on-prem, and we'll talk even more detail about why that is in a second. Things like, new modern applications that take advantage of the cloud, data mobility, being able to move data, not just to and from public cloud, but even on-prem can be very, very difficult with existing data storage technologies. Things like storage as a service, minimizing downtime, making sure that, again, just like the public cloud, we don't have to have outages on nights and weekends to do upgrades and patches and infrastructure replacements and things along those lines. We need infrastructure that is infinitely more scalable and agile. The trouble is, what blocks a lot of organizations from being able to get there is frankly their data storage. Now, we've been able to solve for agility and flexibility and another great 50-cent word, fungibility, in the rest of our tech stack. So compute with virtualization, that got rid of a lot of the downsides of just bare metal computing. Networking has been greatly simplified over the years. But storage has been a laggard. And why is that? That's because most of the storage architectures were just never designed to be flexible and agile like we've become accustomed to with the public cloud. The rigid architectures that they have, certainly you can add capacity, but if you really need to adapt new workloads, vastly increase performance, et cetera, it generally means, getting much more of the same or more often, replacing what you have with new stuff, adding more and more different kinds of upgrades in the path. And these are designed to be, very difficult, primarily because what most legacy storage vendors have as part of their business model is planned obsolescence. In other words, when you come to them saying, what we need to do is, get better performance and, this latest and greatest feature, for instance, for our AI projects, a lot of times they're going to say, great, I gotcha. You just have to buy our brand new storage platform to be able to take advantage of that. And that's not a realistic situation. And what it does is it winds up adding more and more technical debt, this time in the data infrastructure side of things. And given that data storage is at the heart of just about everything else that we do in IT, that has a ripple effect that just starts adding more and more technical debt throughout the organization. And it holds you back from being able to get to the end state that you were looking at in your hybrid cloud journey. And data storage is the blocker for that. Now, an important point here because a lot of what the storage vendors will talk about is, no, don't worry. We're just like the public cloud. We have this as a service or pay-as-you-go consumption model. And that does solve for the financial side. The whole idea of just being able to pay for what you use should be the norm. And it will be the norm, Pure thinks, within the next 5 years of how people are looking at consuming their IT stack. It's already the way in software. I mean, when was the last time we actually went out and bought applications that we housed that weren't purpose-built inside our organizations? We've all moved towards software as a service for, back office, front office, just about everything that we're looking at in our organization. Why? Because it makes sense. It's scalable. We pay for what we need. It's very simple. Data storage, though, is blocked from truly being that as-a-service experience if the architecture itself isn't lending itself to that kind of model. And that's what you really need to look for. The cloud-like agility that we're used to in the public cloud existing on-prem within your data storage infrastructure. And the way that you get there is things like one common platform for all your data needs. So even if you're getting your data storage from a common vendor, oftentimes what they're selling you are, a vast menu of very, very different, very, very complex, separate storage devices based on the performance needs, the workload, your budget, the amount of data you have, et cetera, and artificial lines between each of these. And each one is complex in its own way. So even having all the same infrastructure from the same vendor oftentimes doesn't buy you anything in terms of ease of use. You need experts and expertise in each of those different products to be able to manage your data estate. So, that reducing that complexity is super important to have your data infrastructure feel much more like the public cloud. Expandable, upgradable storage as well that can adapt and grow with your needs as you go along your journey. What this is going to mean then is that's going to get rid of those, the need for big infrastructure replacement projects every few years. And that means you're going to be reducing or eliminating the amount of technical debt, certainly within your storage stack. And that means you can be further along to retiring your technical debt in other parts of the organization. So getting the same type of agility on-prem that you have in the public cloud, that is really what you should be looking for. And then what that makes the cloud journey look like is at each step, you can reduce risks and add flexibility within the education side of things. You can simplify your hybrid cloud journey as you're looking at trying to figure out what your strategy is going to be. As you build out your hybrid cloud environment, this is where you can really start optimizing between the public cloud, your private cloud into a true multi-cloud. And then as you get toward the end state of the multi-cloud automation and the cloud operating model, as it's called, that's when you can transform storage from a series of commodity one-offs into something that's a strategic part of your IT stack, where data can move around between the cloud and on-prem, between the many different on-prem, instances that you have, management simplicity, consumption simplicity, all these different kinds of things. And those are super important to be able to realize these kind of benefits. So how can Pure help you get there? How do we do this? Frankly, it starts with the architecture itself. Now, then we've got pictures of, some of the hardware up here and a lot of different logos and things. The whole idea here is not that we're going to do a deep dive on the technology. What you need to know and where you can start finding out more information about is this idea of having a single platform that's designed to be simple to use, that always stays modern, is incredibly reliable, and works for all your different data types and workloads, all your different performance needs, from the highest performance, can never go down, to your backup and recovery type instances. having the same interface and software, frankly, being run in your public cloud instances as on-prem, that's something else that Pure can get you. And this idea of data mobility that I was just talking about, that's something that is very unique to Pure, and the ability not only to move it between public cloud and on-prem, but even around your on-prem infrastructure. So that gets rid of the whole idea of, even if you decide with Pure to consume the traditional way where you make a capital outlay and purchase it and then run it for a number of years, we can extend the life of that out with our evergreen subscriptions to 10 plus years. But more importantly, you can also move data around in all those different arrays and different infrastructures, depending on where the needs may be. And then, of course, we do have with our Evergreen One true as a service consumption, not just from the financial side. It's absolutely paying for what you use and pay as you go. But more importantly, it is truly as a service, a managed service. You could be looking at things like, hey, how do we do all our data recovery and do it as a service as opposed to building up our own infrastructure? We got you covered. Even guaranteeing things such as your sustainability and efficiency. And we can even pay your power and rack space costs because we know we're so efficient. Just like you would have in the public cloud, where you don't have to pay for anything other than the amount of data and the performance and the data types that you're looking for. We can match that exact type of consumption within Pure. What this gives you is significant cost savings. That's one of the things that you're going to see right off the bat, is much lower total cost of ownership because of the efficiency, the fact that we can take, and we've done this so many times, organizations from multiple racks down to less than half of a rack for all of their data storage needs. So it's far more power and space efficient. The simplicity that we have built into everything means not only significant time savings, the ability to do more, but it also means that it's going to bring down the overall cost of managing your data infrastructure and all of your IT infrastructure. And this idea of products never going obsolete means that you get to adapt and grow to get that cloud-like agility, even when you consume in a traditional way. And Pure has been a leader in this space for a long time. If you're not directly familiar with us, we're basically, the organization that helped put flash storage truly on the map. Not just because of, this is probably the first time I think I've mentioned flash in this talk. Everything that we do is all flash. However, what's more important is all the other things that I was talking about. The simplicity of our systems, the longevity of our systems, the fact that we solve for so many of the problems that people have just, taken for granted that they're going to always exist within on-prem storage infrastructure. And the experts have agreed. People like Gartner, et cetera, have named us a leader for the last 10 years. And the way that we do this is not just a relentless focus on the technology, as we were talking about. And then, of course, the savings that we can give you through our evergreen upgradable architecture and the business model and the ways that you consume. But it's this relentless focus on your satisfaction as a client of ours. We have the highest net promoter score in the industry, 3 to 4 times that of any other IT provider, let alone storage provider. And that means that you can rest assured that we're going to be able to solve for your different problems. So I, just in summation, want to make sure that you understand that you can get there in your cloud journey. It's going to take a little bit of new thinking, and that's what we really challenge you with here at Pure. We've been, forward thinkers, and that's what a lot of our customers have really come to see from us, the ways that we can help them understand storage in different ways, and the ways that they can look at how they, impact everything within IT and make sure that they can go in and really be successful in their cloud journey. That is really what we're all about here at Pure. So if you want to find out more information, you can go ahead and scan the QR code on the screen or use our handy dandy shortcut purestorage.com/future, which has plenty of different pieces of information available for you. There will be some in the follow-up to this. I think I'm a little bit out of time, so I don't think I'll be able to take any questions live. I apologize for that, but I will definitely answer all of your questions in the chat. Thank you so much for your time here today, and have a great day.
And thank you, Kevin, for that presentation. It looks like you had a few issues with your connection today. It looked a little bit laggy, but thanks for soldiering on through. From my perspective, we heard and saw you just fine. Great information as always about Pure Storage, one of the real true innovators in the industry, and a company that I have followed closely for many years. Okay, and now it is time for the Pure Storage poll. Same as the others you've seen, let us know what additional resources you would like to see from Pure Storage. I'd also like to remind everybody about the handouts. We've got a link from Pure Storage to an article about the future all-flash data center. And in fact, now attendee Tim says, I want a future of full flash storage. I am with you, Tim. Let's make it happen. Okay. And now it is time to give away, while you continue to vote in the Pure Storage poll, the next $300 Amazon gift card. As I had mentioned, we're giving away these every 30 minutes. We have got one right now. You do have to be here for the entire event to be eligible, as I have mentioned before, and will undoubtedly mention again. So the winner of the next $300 Amazon gift card is Lionel Roberts from Washington. Congratulations to you, Lionel. We will be in touch about claiming your prize. So there's some more questions that came in for Pure Storage during Kevin's presentation, and I did want to mention here that Kevin is unable to take questions at this time for the presentation, but Pure will be following up. Pure Storage will be following up with all of the questions that you asked today, so have no fear. Mark, it is a delight to have you here. Thank you so much for being on with us today. Sorry about all the technical issues, folks, but hey, that's what happens with live internet. As I mentioned before, we have got Mark on. He is ready to go. So, Mark, I am going to turn this over to you. You have the floor.
Thanks so much. My name is Mark Herter. I'm a solutions architect here at CyberArk. I've been here for about 7 years. And what I want to talk to you guys about today is some of the ways that CyberArk is addressing access management to different types of systems, both in the cloud as well as in your data centers as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the slides. And you all should see my nice AI-generated fellow with the perfect haircut. And like I said, let's just go ahead and get started talking about some of these sessions. Now, before we talk about sessions, though, I want to talk about the attack chain and why it's so important that we really rely on the basics, or that we address the basics of the anatomy of an attack and how attackers like to use leverage or leverage identities within our specific environments. Whether they're an internal threat or an external threat, there's a really good chance that they're going to start on the endpoint. And the reason for that is it's the easiest point to access. There's less protections. It's also where you're going to get somebody to click a link, somebody to install something they're not supposed to do. I think that we can all agree that we, and when I say we, I mean people, those of us that breathe air, we're the weakest threat in any sort of a security program. And so when the attacker lands on the endpoint, they want to look for credentials that they can harvest. And so they're going to grab these credentials from a number of different places, and they could be a number of different types of credentials. These could be credentials that are stored in like PuTTY, or maybe your Linux power users, they're keeping their SSH authentication private keys. Maybe they're on their desktop, maybe they're in some sort of private folder. Hopefully your credentials aren't in spreadsheets, et cetera, but there's all different types of places that we can retrieve credentials from. Browsers, that's one that's really been popular as of late as well. So we really want to remove the ability for the attacker to harvest the credential. And so what we're going to be talking about today is how we can isolate your tier 1 and your tier 2 network environments from the user tier 2 environment, and make sure that those credentials don't pass from tier 2 to tier 1, so that when an attacker does land on that endpoint, there's nothing there that they can find. They're going to continue to look around, and you can discover them before they meet their end goal, which is what you see on the right, where they can leave with your data, they can deploy ransomware, they're going to cause disruptions to your business or your service that you're providing to your users. And so let's continue on and talk about what we see are things that are very important for an effective program. And when I look at the 4 key things, we can really address most of these completely, and certainly some of these in part or mostly just by performing quality session isolation, as well as by implementing zero standing privilege, which we're going to jump into here in a moment as well. So starting with preventing credential theft, you want to make sure that credentials are protected, that they're managed, and that there's really nothing that's there for the user to leverage. We're going to be focusing on how we can leverage the vault to secure credentials, but then how access patterns can be moved to zero standing privilege or just in time, so that there's nothing there for the attacker to leverage. And that's what we want to ultimately get to. We want to stop lateral movement too. So session isolation and protection means that I want to make sure that the credential doesn't make it to the endpoint. Local admin rights is also something that CyberArk is very adept at doing, but it's a little bit out of the scope of this particular conversation. But if there's something that you want more interest or you have interest in, feel free to reach out to us. We can talk to you about how we can elevate a process and not a person. This moves your motion to saying, what access does this application need, rather than the person saying, I need admin because I have to do all these things. Well, how about we just give that application admin? How about we just let you run this particular thing as admin? We want to prevent privilege escalation as well, so least privilege access policies. You can integrate this with some of our other solutions as well, so that we can look for risky commands. But the least privilege access is really going to be focused around what all can my user do once they get access to this account. And we can really limit that down in scope of the things that they can access as far as systems. So rather than getting an account that can perform changes on 10, 20, 30 different systems, let's just set up a policy so that you can only make the changes that you need to on that particular system. And then preventing insider threats, so making sure that you're monitoring and recording things that take place, and that you've got an audit trail of the commands that are sent to your Linux systems, to your databases, et cetera, so that you can pick out these types of things and really address those types of insider threats. All of these are going to come with operational considerations that you want to make sure that we're delivering not only a quality experience to the user, but a secure experience to the user as well. And so what does this look like when we change the method of access from standing to zero standing privilege? And I want to talk about kind of how these different tiers work in our solution. So from a standing access perspective, it's exactly what it sounds like. These are going to be accounts like domain admin accounts, local admin accounts, things that always have to have a privilege associated with their account type. These are going to really present the highest amount of risk to your organization, because even if those credentials are protected, if they're not managed on a regular basis, so let's say that you allow Susie or John or Jane or anybody like that to grab a credential out of your vault, whether that's CyberArk or any other vault, And then they use that credential to connect from their local system to a target system. Well, now they've left some credential residue there, especially if they stored the credential in like an RDP file or a flat file of some type. We want to remove that staying access as much as possible. So the next iteration of that is just-in-time access. And this is going to be something where it's like, you know, maybe I've got access between 8 and 5. I can do it on a regular basis. So it definitely reduces the risk there. But especially when these types of things are scheduled, or you're elevating somebody to a role without really looking at what they need to do in that place, they're probably getting a little bit more privileged than they need. Zero static privilege is where we're targeting our solutions, and this is where we want to see our customers move towards as well, is so that we're not giving access on a just-in-time basis. We're going to use least privilege principles. We're going to actually create the account on the fly. That way there's zero static privilege. There's nothing that's associated with that account when your organization is out to lunch, when your organization is, maybe you've got folks that are on vacation, folks that are doing other things, etc. We're only going to create the account. We're only going to create these privileges when this person needs these privileges to be created, and the processes to allow this person to assume these roles have also been satisfied as well. So when I'm looking at this from an enterprise perspective, we want to secure access to our new cloud workloads. You've got two things that you have to consider, though. There's access to the cloud itself. So this is going to be like the cloud roles that I need to access. I need to get access to Azure so I can administer these key vaults, or I need to get access to AWS and I need to administer my Beanstalk application or my S3 bucket or something like that. That's going to be for services that are in the cloud. But what about the workloads that are on the cloud? So the databases, the EC2 instances, the Azure Compute instances, et cetera, where it's still a little bit more normal for me to use my native terminal, my native RDP solution. And so we've got to think of this in two different ways. Is one, we need to give somebody access to the cloud itself, and we may have people that don't need access to the cloud, but they need to get some sort of privileged access to the resources as well. And so we'll go through and we'll talk about this, and then we've got a light demonstration that we're going to show you as well towards the end of the session here. So when we're giving folks access to native services, everything that we're going to do is going to be policy-based. So whether we want to allow somebody to assume a role in the cloud, or we want to give them access to a system that's being spun up in the cloud, even if that system hasn't been created yet from a compute perspective, we are going to do that based on policy. We're going to do that based on attributes as well. So maybe I want this person to be able to assume the a role in Azure, such as the Azure AD Administrator or Azure Global Administrator. Well, we can allow them that just in time. We're going to record everything that they do, and we can even prevent certain things from taking place in the GUI as well. When they need access to the compute, now we're just looking at, where does this compute instance live? What about this instance can I tie back to the user to make sure that they are the person that is supposed to be accessing the system? And what I really like about this is our policies are designed to work the way that your cloud environment works as well. If you have a new development project, or you have some sort of new service or something like that that's being deployed within your organization, chances are you're going to set up a new subscription, and that team is going to need access to the resources in that subscription. So you can set policies that are based on the subscription, based on the region, so that we can allow this development team, or we can allow this team of sorts to get access to the resources, again, even before they're created. So we're going to leave the GRC with the security team, but we're going to allow these users to use their native tools to get access to these systems in a secure manner. So let's look at how we're kind of breaking out access and how I look at these things when it comes to deploying privileged access across the environment. So there's going to be things that you deploy in your environment that are going to live for a long time. They might be servers, they might be databases, they might be enterprise tools like SAP, security tools like Checkpoint, et cetera. All of these tools, though, they come with a present, and that present is called SA, it's called root, it's called administrator. It has a lot of different names, but at the end of the day, it actually means the same exact thing. It means that you have godlike powers, godlike privileges on this particular system. And so for this, the foundational privilege access management controls, these are extremely essential. We want to rotate these credentials on a regular basis. You can put controls like workflows into place so that if somebody says, hey, I need access to my root account, do you really need access to that root account, or could we do that with a lesser privileged account? And in some cases, they will need access, and that's okay. We can still broker the access for those types of accounts. We can still broker access for those users needing to utilize those accounts, but these should be your exception. However, these are the things that you have to report on from a GRC perspective. So you need to be able to prove we're protecting these accounts, we're rotating these accounts, and these accounts are only accessed by people that are approved to access these accounts. So that's kind of the entry level. We still vault them. If we use them, we're still going to do session isolation. We're still going to record everything that takes place with these particular users. But when it comes to your day-to-day users, and we're looking at elastic workloads, not only in the public cloud, but in the private cloud as well, things where your users might not need that full level access. Maybe they only need to be able to make read and write updates to your database, or maybe they need less than administrative privileges to a Windows server or Linux system, even a Kubernetes cluster. This is where we can provision access on the fly just in time. So now, instead of your users having these vaulted accounts that have all the privilege, like I said, this privilege persists even if they're on vacation, even if they're sleeping at night, etc. We'll create this account dynamically on the fly and broker access to the system. In some cases, which you're going to see me do this with a Linux system, we don't even use a credential. We use a certificate. So we become the certificate authority, and we will actually generate on the fly a short-lived certificate that will be used to broker your access, or your broker access for your user to their target system, and will still be able to take inventory of the commands that they send to that Linux server or system, as well as the database server system, the Windows servers as well. So this operational access is really about giving your users a secure way to access the compute workloads that might live in the CSP or live in your data center, as well as us giving, excuse me, as well as us having all of the recordings, all the telemetry, what takes place inside of this session. Now, when it comes time to give people access to things that are on the cloud, or we need to enroll them in specific cloud services, this is where we'll use our cloud brokering solution. So this spans across all three major CSPs, AWS, Azure, and GCP. And this allows your user to be provisioned into a role for a time-bound period based on a policy. So you want to set up a policy that says that this person, this user, they can access this particular role in this particular cloud on these particular days in this particular time. And again, you can set these for a recurring access policy. So maybe I'm an SRE and I need to get access on a pretty regular basis. So we're okay with SREs getting access. We don't want them to have access all the time. We just want them to go through the appropriate process. You can have them a policy set so that they can do a simple single sign-on to the CyberArk solution, select the role that they want, and then they're going to have a native experience in the cloud. But we're going to capture the activities that they're performing. For those higher level type roles, and especially for things in production, if you want to really control that access, then we can work this in with your ticketing system. This way, when your user submits a ticket, they're going to say, I need access to this account. I need to assume these roles so that I can perform these tasks. Once that's approved, then we can use automation to create a policy in the CyberArk solution that will only give them access during their change window. And so it really allows you to tighten up how your production changes are documented and how access to make those production changes are documented. You'll have a ticket that says, I need to do something. Somebody's going to approve that ticket, and then you're going to have a process that shows we created a policy, the user assumed the role, and here are the things that the user did while they had access to production. And once they were done, their account was automatically deprovisioned. So you'll be able to show the full life cycle of your production changes using these solutions for both workloads on the cloud as well as workloads in the cloud. The next frontier that CyberArk is tackling is for SaaS applications. We're seeing this more and more, that our customers are consuming their applications, they're consuming their capabilities via SaaS. And so as organizations become more and more reliant on SaaS products, we're looking for more control over what people can do inside of these, as well as more telemetry and reporting data on what took place inside of these types of sessions. So this is where our web browser extension or the CyberArk Secure Browser comes in. If you've been following CyberArk, we've recently released the CyberArk Secure Browser. It's a cookieless browsing experience. That way we can take away the things that attackers leverage the most on your endpoints, and the users will actually still have a native experience when they're going to Salesforce, when they're going to CrowdStrike or your HR system, PagerDuty, etc. So it's really good to make sure that those users can get in there and do what they need to do, and you get the extra control. One of the other things that our customers are really enjoying about this is when vendors come in. We can prevent them from downloading. We can prevent them from copying and pasting data. So you can really take some extra controls and put those into place for third parties that are coming into play, and even for people that maybe are over provisioned. One of the other things that I often hear are that some of these applications, they either give you administrative rights or they give you no rights whatsoever. And it's hard to balance that in between. And we can even add session control so that we can prevent users from doing things like altering settings that could have an impact on the way that your business leverages this particular SaaS service. So once this is all said and done, and you leverage the entire, or you leverage the CyberArk portfolio for brokering privileged access, we've got native ways to give users access to vaulted root level accounts. We have methods to give users just-in-time, zero-standing privilege access to compute workloads in the cloud, whether we're talking about a Linux system, a Windows server, a database, or even a Kubernetes cluster. We have ways to give people secure zero-standing privilege access to multiple different CSPs, as well as SaaS applications. So the last two things I want to show you are a policy, and then we're going to look at what it looks like to actually use the system as a Linux user. So if I'm building a policy out, I've talked a lot about everything being policy-based, time-bound, etc. So outside of that, once you've named your policy, you've told us when you want to evaluate the policy, this is how we can start building out who has access to what. So again, thinking back to that scenario where you've got a development team or you've got a new team that needs to build a new project in an account, you can set account level based permissions for these AWS assets or your cloud assets. So if it's in this account in any region in one of these two VPCs, then I want to allow this group to get access to it. You can also add tagging, so you can limit users to specific systems that are tagged in a specific way. So you can get very granular with what they have access to. And as you move towards production, you should get more granular. For your on-premises assets, we're going to leverage your naming convention. We can look for things that start with, end with, contain, or we can even use wildcard type search functions. So we can give users access to systems strictly based on the name of the system, and you can even include some wildcards in there as well. So again, if we can leverage your naming convention and you're naming things by project or you're naming things by region, et cetera, we'll be able to really broker access to them in a granular but also a scalable way, because we are able to use those lookup functions. When it comes to giving people access to the systems, what user do you want them to access as on the Linux side? Now we can also use like domain accounts. If you've got something brokered there, we could have my domain user brokered to the target system. You can use built-in accounts. You can use any type of account. The account just has to exist. And keep in mind, on the Linux side, we're actually using certificates to authenticate. So we're turning off password authentication, turning off certificate or key authentication, things like that. And then on the Windows side, you would just place the user into local groups. From a timing perspective, you can choose the time zone that you want to work in. And this, it's not like follow the sun, so this isn't going to move towards my time zone. So whatever the administrator setting it up, you know, I'm in Central. If somebody were to be in Mountain, this would be from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Mountain. And so the days, you can select days that you want to allow users to access these systems, and then times, and then the maximum duration. I'm going to tie this again back to that production access use case. So let's say that you had somebody that had a change window. The change window was Friday night from 6 to 8 p.m. You can set this to only allow them to access Friday from 6 to 8 for up to 2 hours. So again, being very granular with how users can access systems in production and the changes that they can make. So the next thing that we have here is we have a short video, and this is going to depict what it's like to establish a session to a target system. Now, I'm using an alias that CyberArk created for me. This is available to all the users in our environment, and all I provided it with was a target system identity. This is a cloud identity, but I can also use a IP address, whether that be a public IP address or a private IP address. My connector just needs to be able to locate the system. Now, my connectors use a reverse proxy, so there's no inbound connectivity that's required to my particular network. You'll notice on the screen here, I'm actually choosing to connect as the EC2 user, and there's a few things that have taken place here. So the first, if you look about maybe a third of the way down, it says that we've fetched a key to users, marker.ssh, et cetera, et cetera. That's building in my MFA caching. So if you wanted to use MFA caching for your users, you have the ability to do that. So I would be able to connect again. But what I really wanted to get across to you was how simple it was for me to connect as an end user. I simply provided my password. I provided the system that I wanted to connect to. And now we're looking at the audit data. So everything that took place in that session is completely audited here. We know that I made a new directory. I changed directory into it, I backed out, I removed the directory, and then I exited from the session. So you'll have full telemetry on everything that users were doing inside your Linux sessions, your database sessions, your Windows sessions, as well as your Kubernetes sessions. So that concludes the conversation that I had prepared for today. I'm looking forward to your questions. And of course, if you'd like to dive deeper into this with anybody from CyberArk, feel free to reach out to us on our website at cyberark.com. If you're already a CyberArk customer or know your account representative, reach out to them, and we'd be more than happy to have an in-depth conversation with you about how this would look in your particular environment.
Thank you so much, Mark, for that great presentation. Loved it. Great demos, and just so much that CyberArk can do. Loved hearing it. We do have time for just a couple of questions, so let's get to those. In the meantime, folks, we've got the poll question up. Please let us know what additional information you would like about the CyberArk solution. Keep voting while we go through these couple of questions quickly, and let them know how you'd like to hear from them. So first up today, Mark, what ports and protocols do you require to be open to your SaaS service to accomplish session management?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things that our customers often are wanting to know is this going to make my firewall look like a Swiss cheese, you know, like Swiss cheese that goes on a sandwich or something? And the cool thing about everything that I talked to you guys about today is it's set up using a reverse proxy. So for that network zone, whether that's tier 1, tier 0, that just needs to have 443 outbound to the SaaS service. From there, we're going to establish an encrypted tunnel, and then your users will reach out on port 443 to the CyberArk SaaS solution. Then we will handle brokering access to that target system through that reverse tunnel and that reverse proxy that's been set up. So it makes it very easy to establish and respect those network tiering boundaries. For our database connections, your users will need to be able to get out on the database port to the SaaS service. But again, there's nothing inbound that we require. The only thing we're looking is really outbound connectivity to the SaaS service itself. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Next up, what user adoption challenges do your customers typically face? That's a really good one.
Yeah, user adoption is, to me, it's always about meeting the user where they're at and allowing them to utilize the tools that they're used to using. And for me, what I find is that customers don't like it when you change the way that they work, whether that's giving them a different tool or making them go to a web portal to establish their sessions instead of allowing them to use Remote Desktop Manager or Royal TS or MOBA Xterm, whatever it is that they like to use. When you start to take those away, that's where we see users starting to be resistant. And this is especially true with the database developers because, you know, that database IDE has so much that's built into that for the developer to use. So our challenges in the past have really been users saying, I can't use my native tools. And so since we've released this new functionality, we've got a lot more, I don't want to say compliance, but compliance is really the right word from our end users because they're saying, hey, this really isn't that bad. We even provide them a connection guidance page that helps them set up things like that alias that you guys saw me use. You know, so if you can change the conversation from, hey, I'm a user, I have to go log in, I have to check this out, I have to put things in a certain way to, hey, user, go run this alias on your system one time, and then just tell me what you want to connect to. It's a much easier conversation. And the users are typically more likely to get on board with you.
Yeah, 100%, definitely. Okay, well, Mark, we are now out of time for today. Thank you again for your presentation, which I just loved, and for your insights in the Q&A. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having us here today. Look forward to talking to folks in the future. Bye-bye.
Bye, Mark. And again, I want to thank Mark for toughing it out and getting on when we've had the tech gremlins have been hot and heavy today. They've been involved in every little corner of our event, but we are going to go forward. I'm going to leave this poll up here for another minute while I give away our prizes. And I also want to remind you about a CyberArk handout. In that handout section, there's a white paper about PAM solutions. So make sure you get that now. So, okay, gift cards and Kindle Scribes. We have a $300 Amazon card, and the winner of that one is William Franco from Georgia. And the winner of the next Kindle Scribe of the event is Dan Belsky from California. Congratulations to both of you, and sit tight because we will be in touch. And I am about to close this poll out right now because it is time for our next to last presentation in the MegaCast, folks. We are rounding the home stretch, if you will, or rounding third base if we're going to go back to our baseball analogies. So this session comes from Nutanix, and presenting for Nutanix is Maggie Smith, a senior solutions manager. This would not be the Maggie Smith who is Professor McGonagall, but this is the Maggie Smith who works for Nutanix. Maggie, welcome. We look forward to a magical presentation and to a great Q&A because fellow Mod Squatter Mackenzie Pudici is going to be joining you for that, so I can't wait. Let's get now to the presentation, Maggie.
Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction, and I'm really excited to be here today. I'm really intrigued by this title, the fastest and most efficient way to get your application to the cloud, because that is something we hear from our customers all the time. I have a cloud mandate. I want to get out of the data center business. The cloud beckons to me. How do I make sure I have the most expedient way to get applications and data to the cloud so my shareholders and customers can access that? So what's driving this need? Well, businesses are really driving these strategic initiatives in order to reach new customers and new opportunities. They want to engage with new customers. They want to engage differently with their existing customers. But most importantly, they want to grow without risk and additional cost. Well, of course, that's nirvana. And what steps into place are the constraints of managing this. Number one is budget. How much budget do I have to bring every application that I'm using and managing and delivering to my shareholders today to the cloud? And how much time am I given? Because you're going to learn what we've learned is that it takes a lot of time to build a cloud native application. But most important, it's staffing. At our recent user conference in Chicago, I was standing in line behind a couple of gentlemen, and they were talking about the scarcity of cloud architects, how important they are to deliver native applications to the cloud, but how hard they are to find them and to keep them. And business owners are really looking at different ways in order to attract talent, but also is there a different way to bring these applications to the cloud? And that's a significant takeaway that I want you to have, is how do we resolve these issues? The first one. It's really getting hard to manage all of this sprawl, and I use that word intentionally. The applications that we're delivering to the cloud is expected to grow up to 750 million new by 2026, and this comes to us from IDC. So just think about your own daily life. You interact with your bank probably online. I interact with my doctor online through a portal. Everywhere you go, you've got new applications that are consumed on a digital basis. And as a result of that, because of data gravity, data follows the application, data is exploding everywhere. And so considerations need to be thought through about how to manage all that data so it scales appropriately and can be found. And we've also learned that workload movement, specifically those applications that are going into the cloud, need to be reassessed constantly. Many analysts are saying decisions that you're making now may need to change in 2 or 3 years of where you place that workload. About 85% of those placements may be out of date and may not meet your needs. And we should talk a little bit about the edge, where there's a number of different factors occurring. Talk about data explosion, the whole notion of machine learned data and collected from the machines that are doing the work. Much of that's going on the edge. And that needs to be considered, how to manage that appropriately as you move applications around, because it's not just public clouds anymore. It's what you have in the data center, your core data center, as well as what you're delivering to the edge. So the other thing we hear constantly, and our research backs us up, is that I just want one place to manage all of this sprawl, all of these applications and all of that data that's being created. And many customers, in fact, this is data that comes to us from a yearly survey we do called the Enterprise Cloud Index. 70% of IT teams that were surveyed in last year's, and it's confirmed again this year, it's actually growing, are expected to leverage more than one IT infrastructure in the next 3 years. So that means they're going to have an infrastructure in public clouds. As I mentioned earlier, they're going to have an infrastructure to manage at the edge to collect the data that's being consumed and created. And it's, of course, what's going on in the core data center. And 94% of survey, of course, this is nirvana. I just want one tool, one solution to manage all of that for me, so I don't have to go from screen to screen to screen to create these applications and to move these applications to the appropriate place. So here's where we start to think about this term called a hybrid multi-cloud. And this is a private cloud that you're probably using today within your core data center or at your edge that's interlocked with a public cloud or a service provider cloud seamlessly and easily, and expands and scales on demand. So it uses consistent constructs, consistency in terms of the network that you use and the skill sets that are deployed to manage all of this. More importantly, it allows you to move applications and their respective licenses, including database licenses, to the appropriate place. These are the essential characteristics for a hybrid multi-cloud, and it also gives you a centralized point to manage all of this. So that's the definition of a hybrid multi-cloud. Why would you want to consider this? What's in it for you? Why don't I just do something in public scalers or public hyperscalers or on premise today? Well, overall, it will reduce costs and get things done faster. You get faster payback. You have a reduction in your environmental efficiency, and all of that goes back to the bottom line. But it also gives you efficiency in your IT management with a hybrid multi-cloud. You think about this as a common operating model across all of the places you place applications and data. So everything's the same. You don't have to hire a skilled architect and manage the public cloud perspective. You don't have to hire somebody who's familiar with machine data. You have one operating model and you have one skill set that can be applied. And what you gain is productivity, agility, and scale, which goes right down to the bottom line. So consider how you build this kind of thing. And this is what I want to introduce you to, something called the Nutanix Cloud Platform. This is our primary product. We've been in business now with this product for over 15 years. And this delivers the capability of a private cloud as well as the edge of what you might need, a Nutanix Cloud Platform. But we also have something called Nutanix Cloud Clusters, which extends the Nutanix Cloud Platform into the environment you choose, whether it's a public cloud that you've selected and purchased and purchased resources to manage, or if it's a service provider that's managing it for you. It's one operating model that lets you easily move applications without the need to refactor them. So they're built for that specific environment. And it lets you pick the cloud of your choice. Today we support Microsoft Azure and of course AWS, which consumes about, I think, 85% of the market cloud for the public cloud market today. And you've got the freedom to choose which way you want to go. We support both clouds. You can also use Nutanix Cloud Clusters and extending your Nutanix Cloud Platform to reduce your cloud commits. All of the services that we provide with Nutanix Cloud Clusters and our platform can be consumed in the public cloud. They're available, and you can use this to reduce your cloud commits. Perhaps you've signed a multi-million-dollar license to use AWS. Well, that's how you can deploy, and you can deploy Nutanix Cloud Clusters to manage those commits. But really what it delivers is reducing the staffing pressure needed to support all of these environments. And that's really something to consider as you start to deploy in a Nutanix Cloud Platform and Nutanix Cloud Cluster. One operating model, one skill set, one place to manage all of this. So I want to cite one of our customers on Penn National Insurance, and the issue they had was scale. They had a virtual desktop infrastructure that was based on premise that they needed to bring rapidly to their consumers, their agents. And they were finally, with Nutanix Cloud Clusters on AWS, as you see the quote here, they were finally getting away from that expensive and inefficient capital procurement model. We needed to scale fast. So they're able to deploy a Nutanix cluster to bring in the virtual desktops in 45 minutes, and they used Citrix VDI that was up and running in less than 2 hours and delivered to their shareholders. So this is a key customer of ours, and we're very delighted to have and tell their story of how they deployed Nutanix Cloud Platform with Nutanix Cloud Clusters on AWS. Then we also support delivering the traditional cloud-native applications for the cloud experience, and we have a complete ecosystem that helps you support that by using the Nutanix Cloud Platform to deliver this capability. We give you a choice of Kubernetes and how to build out a container-based application. We allow you to run these containers in a virtual machine or on a native platform. And it allows you to easily migrate these workloads across clouds, because that's the idea of building a native cloud application and using a tool such as Kubernetes to move that rapidly around. Now, it takes time, and we've got a couple of different ways in order to manage that time. And as I mentioned, one of which is using Nutanix Cloud Cluster to extend the platform as you build out these native applications. And you get the best of both worlds, delivering the applications while you're continuing to refactor and re-architect the applications so they're best suited for the cloud. The other thing to consider is how to maintain storage consistency. Remember the data sprawl that I talked about earlier and the need to have capable storage that scales very easily. With Nutanix Unified Storage, you can deploy file-based, object-based, and block-based across your cloud commitments and managed all through one single user environment. So you can simplify your infrastructure, start small and scale as you need, but provide that consistency and ease of management and operations that you need to manage all of that storage as it builds out and scales out to capture all of that data being created by these new applications, digital applications that you've now deployed. So I wanted to talk a little bit about cost spend, and I like to talk not cost optimization, but cloud spend optimization. And Nutanix offers a number of different tools to supply that cost governance, so you're getting the best of the cloud experience. We provide automation tools, which helps you reduce your total cost reduction by up to 43%. And we can help you establish governance. Instead of just using a spreadsheet, for instance, that manages all of your cloud spend, we allow you to build out dashboards so you instantly see each month where you're spending your cloud commitments. And we've found that customers are saving about 30% of those costs by using these tools. But it allows you really at this point to modernize your applications so they run everywhere. And that delivers up to a 53% savings as you're building out these applications. So again, some things to think about that we supply, Nutanix supplies with our Nutanix Cloud Platform in order to optimize your cloud spend. So I'll give you a good customer example from the University of San Diego. And what they found is they were really struggling to manage their cloud costs. Every month they would get something that might say you had this VM still running over and over again. Perhaps a developer left it open as they were testing out a native cloud experience. And that was accruing cost in the public cloud spend. In this case, they uncovered an API in a development environment that never got shut down. So that was ka-chink, ka-chink, adding cost that they didn't anticipate and didn't know they had. So using this centralized console through our cost governance programs, they can easily show where the cost savings occurs for the university. And they also get chargeback reports. So there might be a department that's 70% of the cloud spend is being used by the Department of Engineering or something like that. And they allow them to charge back to that department, so the spend is easily monetized and understood. I do want to talk about cybersecurity. Our recent Enterprise Cloud Index was just published last month, and it's available from Nutanix.com, Enterprise Cloud Index. And what we found is I think they said about 97%, actually no, 89% of people who answered our survey had experienced a ransomware situation and a ransomware instance, and about 79% said it took weeks to recover from that. So when you think about cybersecurity, you now need to think about a solution that covers the entire operating platform. It may be able to operate anywhere, regardless of whether you're in the cloud or on core or at the edge. It should be automated and integrated with the solution that you're using today, and use automation to help monitor when a cyber situation or a cyber ransomware or a cybersecurity situation is in play. But it lets you also develop policies. You should have that solution that allows you to develop policies that provide instant access to the people who have the right to do that, and do that through identity management. So you know when a bad person is trying to come in and break into to capture that data. And at the end of the day, this single validated security platform should always strengthen the resilience that you have and enable that business continuity that you need, so you don't have the situation that 89% of our respondents said that it took weeks to recover from a cyber crime. So something to think about as you consider a hybrid multi-cloud and how to unify the cybersecurity solutions to manage the whole environment. So let's talk about why Nutanix. Well, a couple of different things. You've learned from the two examples I've told you, both Penn National as well as from University of California at San Diego, is they were able to reduce costs and build out a hybrid multi-cloud in hours rather than days. They also found they gained back efficiency, which goes back to your bottom line, up to 53% more efficient in an IT infrastructure. And what we have found, and this is anecdotal, we haven't really had a time to benchmark this, 60% of the time you can move workloads faster by using Nutanix Cloud Platform and Nutanix Cloud Clusters to move those applications into the cloud. In fact, many of our customers have told us it's taking maybe 18 to 24 months just to get a single application up to the cloud when using and building out a native cloud supported application. So why not do the best of both worlds? Move applications to the public cloud with Nutanix Cloud Clusters and our cloud platform, and continue to build these native applications so you have the experience and the cloud availability already ready as you fine-tune it for cloud deployment. So these are a couple things to think about how Nutanix can help. And finally, I do want to leave you with one last customer story, and this was from an agency in Scotland. This is a land agency that manages all of the public forestry and public parks in Scotland. If you've been to Scotland, you know there's a lot of them. And they were having the whole situation where they wanted to migrate their entire data center. They wanted to get out of the data center business. And so they chose Microsoft Azure as their cloud provider to manage their data center needs. And with Nutanix, they were able to migrate this very quickly to the point they now are spending more time re-architecting the applications, but still managing the data center through Nutanix Cloud Platform and cloud clusters. And what they got was much better scalability, demand performance that they needed for these applications, but more specifically, they were able to quickly reduce their data center footprint, as was mandated by the government of Scotland. So a couple considerations in yet another success story that we have. So I want to leave you this what we can do in terms of delivering the single platform for hybrid multi-cloud deployment. And you see across the bar here, we provide lots of different support tools in order to support the applications, both modern applications you're building for the cloud, as we've talked about, in refactoring these applications. We've got a whole support environment to help you do that. We allow you to use enterprise applications that you're using today in order to run your business, and of course the databases that support those applications. And we deliver a federated cloud management solution that allows you to manage everything from a single operating plane and a single operating management solution. Coming soon, we're going to have some platform services. We call this Project Beacon, which allows you to spread this data through the public cloud environment. As you may recall, with data gravity, the application and the data are hand in hand. The data stays with that application. Wouldn't it be great to host that data service somewhere else outside of where the application is? And this is a long-term project that we have underway. And so we've built this application to really speak to cloud deployments. And that's what we'd like you to consider when you think of Nutanix as a cloud supplier. So I can't tell you enough. You got to experience for yourself. Come take a demo and come take a test drive. Nutanix.com-one platform will take you to a couple of different experiences that you can try. Go to Nutanix Cloud Clusters to try that first and see how easy it is to move applications back and forth, back to the data center if needed, and up to a public cloud to support. And I think at this point we can take some questions.
That sounds great. We have plenty of questions actually that came in, so hopefully we can get to as many as possible with you, Maggie. With that, are you ready for the first one?
Yeah, all
Okay.
set.
Excellent. So this is from Josh. He's asking, why would I choose Nutanix for delivering efficiency deployments in multi-clouds, or in multiple clouds rather?
Well, as I said, that was probably one of the key takeaways I'd like to leave with you today, is the fact that extending a single platform, in this case the Nutanix Cloud Platform, into a public cloud or into another environment that you're supporting provides a common operating model. So that delivers efficiency and scale immediately. And it also helps build productivity in your IT teams. So they get to use the common platform and have the same skill set that you're using today in the data center up in the cloud. That common operating model delivers that efficiency and agility that many of our customers need.
And that's something I hear a lot when we talk about multi-cloud, is like, how do we make this efficient and how do we make this secure? So that sounds fantastic. Okay, next question here I have is, how do you address cybersecurity and ransomware attacks in hybrid multi-cloud?
Well, we've got a number of different solutions that are really, as I said, that federated solution that we talked about that come with you when you extend the Nutanix Cloud Platform into the cloud. It's multi-steps. We have, of course, a hardened platform that delivers cybersecurity within the platform itself, within the operating management tools. And we also deliver solutions that have identity access, network microsegmentation that allows you to really fine-tune how the network is examined to make sure that perhaps it's sealed away from someone that's not accessing it. We also have a solution called Data Lens, which will stop cybercrime in its track, and it's used a lot with our Nutanix Unified Storage solution. So that delivers a way to you can examine if a cybercrime is emerging and immediately stop that in its track. We also encrypt the resting data. So if you need and you want to make sure that when data is at rest, when it's not being used, the application is completely encrypted so it can't be stolen. I mean, that's at the end of the day, you want to have business continuity with your unified security solution. And that's what we deliver by extending the Nutanix Cloud Platform with Nutanix Cloud Clusters into that public cloud, one common security solution.
Right. Okay. A lot of hybrid multi-cloud questions, which makes sense. It's topical. Next one here is, what are some management strategies that I should be thinking about for hybrid multi-cloud environments?
That's an interesting question because there's so many customers, they think, well, I'm in a hybrid cloud today. I have something on the core data center. It may not be at the edge yet, but I'm also moving more and more workloads and more data into public cloud, perhaps for a disaster recovery perspective. But each one of them delivers a screen that you have to go from back and forth in order to manage the operation that might be occurring in the public cloud, as well as the operations that are occurring back in your core data center. And through Nutanix Cloud Manager and Nutanix Central, these are two solutions that we have in market that can manage that across geographies. So regardless if the data center sits perhaps at your headquarters, and you may have edge solutions, or you may be using cloud solutions outside of that geography in another country or another continent, we have the ability to manage all of that. It's a federated management solution, a single screen to look after all of those applications and all of that data you're managing. And that's what we provide our customers in order to deliver that full hybrid multi-cloud experience. So again, think of Nutanix as a cloud provider. We provide the solutions and help you to get to that cloud, as we said earlier, rapidly get those applications up to the cloud. And that's what Nutanix does. We manage it and we operate it all in a single operating environment.
That sounds so great. Kind of the bird's eye view, the bird's eye management. Does that make sense?
Indeed.
Amazing. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today, Maggie. But I do want to say, is there anything you want to leave the audience with, a final call to action, or something they should be thinking about when they think about Nutanix? What would you leave everyone with today?
Well, the best way to go to something like that, of course, is to our Nutanix test drive and see all of the solutions that we have in order to help you do that. So that's what I would leave with you today. Take a test drive. If you go to the One Platform test drive, you'll see a couple of different choices that you can make, and start with Nutanix Cloud Platform and Nutanix Cloud Clusters and go from there.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, once again, thanks for being here today. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure the audience does as well.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It was our pleasure to have you, Maggie. I always enjoy the opportunity to make Harry Potter references whenever I can. And thanks, Mackenzie, for a great Q&A session. Now, as you can see, everyone, I've put up the poll question. We appreciate your answers on what additional information you would like from Nutanix this time. Now, after you vote, which I hope you're doing right now, make sure to download the Nutanix handout, which is a PDF making the business case for the Nutanix cloud. Thanks again to you, Maggie. Now you can apparate back to Hogwarts. And so with that, it is time for our next prize drawings. So we have, once again, for this one, got an Amazon gift card and another Kindle Scribe. So the winner of the $300 Amazon card is another Maggie. This one is Maggie Yu from Virginia. And the winner of the grand prize, that Kindle Scribe, is Jordan Sao from Colorado. Congratulations to our winners. We will be in touch about claiming your prizes. I'm going to leave this poll up again for just another couple of seconds while we get our next presentation prepared, which is right about now. So, folks, we are ready for our final presentation in the MegaCast today. I mean, time really flies, doesn't it? This session comes from Quantum, and presenting for Quantum is Timothy Sherback with the Enterprise Products and Solutions team at Quantum. Timothy, thank you so much for being here today. It's a delight to have you. I am going to turn the mic over to you now. Take it away.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody, for participating today. I'll try to keep it light. I know you've been absorbing lots of content, but I just want to give you a little bit about Quantum and our perspective on optimizing and modernizing IT infrastructure. We have some really unique solutions in market today, which really provide for this opportunity to optimize and modernize. If you're unfamiliar with Quantum, we are a historically large company in the IT industry, and we have 10,000 customers. We have many more through our OEM partnerships with our cloud providers as well. And we have a very large footprint in the Fortune 100 and many, many exabytes where we protect and preserve customer workloads. We deliver end-to-end solutions for AI and unstructured data, and that's across the entire life cycle. And that's an important concept that I'll talk about today, is this whole idea that your data has a life cycle, although increasingly data today never actually dies. And it will increasingly come back to life and want to be remonetized, reanalyzed over time. And we'll talk about that in some details as well. We have an end-to-end portfolio for the AI era. This includes both primary storage solutions and secondary storage solutions. We have a long history in bringing very state-of-the-art file systems into the market, as well as a portfolio of secondary storage solutions in the context of object storage, backup appliances, and Scalar is our brand of tape storage. And we'll talk about many of these different products, but today I will primarily focus on the Myriad all-flash storage solution and the ActiveScale object storage solution. They, in combination, provide for two key capabilities when you're thinking about modernizing your IT and environment. So if we look at what's happening kind of in the market today and some of the challenges that you face, the scenario is that data is increasing in volume, it's increasing in value, and probably most apparent in the last year or 18 months is it's increasing in its potential for future enrichment. We are finding new ways and new methods to analyze this data and make extract value from this data. And so there's really a need for simpler, scalable, cost-efficient, and high performance for data access and long-term protection of the data. Data is very much growing, and that's causing us to really think in a much larger scale in terms of the performance and the automation that we need in our storage platforms. We are really stretching the dimensions in terms of the value of data, and that means that we need to be very focused on the long-term capability of our platforms to support this data and to be able to access it and understand it for years and even decades. We continue to have never-ending data security protection issues, and so in that case, security, protection, durability are all really important. And we are really focused now on a kind of this hybrid architecture which leverages the cloud where it makes sense, but is also affecting and influencing the way that we think about our in-house environments too, and their need to be a very cloud-like experience, very flexible and agile in their construction as well. And then lastly, one of the things that is being well recognized is that there is optimizations to be made by repatriating some aspects of the environment from the cloud, from a public cloud, and to be leveraging hybrid and private clouds in order to be able to more effectively and cost effectively store all of the data and access all of the data that we need in our environments. One of the things that I would say is, AI is certainly driving some really intensive agendas in terms of data access and data access patterns. This is reflected in many workflows that have characteristically been part of many organizations before the advent of AI. And think in terms of high performance computing environments, media environments where they have large render farms that are computing all of the frames of a high quality animated movie, for example. And so what you're going to be faced with, and what you need to be thinking about, is there are really two requirements for data storage in the environments as we move forward. Some folks are trying to merge these and argue that, look, we can put all our data on flash, but in fact, it's much more effective that we have a production environment that is very high performance, low latency for these hot active data workloads. You may have multiple workloads running there. There are requirements for multiple different protocols, some file access protocols, object protocols, etc. But it needs to be, the demand there is it needs to be very high performance, low latency, and scalable in its capability. On the flip side, there is this requirement for what my colleague has referred to as cold, or what I would generally refer to as warm and cold data, which is this requirement for a massive amount of data that's going to be stored over the long term. It's not data that's just going to go and die on a shelf. It actually needs to be online and accessible. It's likely to be S3 addressable, and effectively the requirement to build a storage cloud that allows you to store all of this data in a resilient and economical manner. And it will have a built-in cold tier that allows for really easy access, but low cost and long-term durability. And so it's the combination of these two, and you see this in many ways reflected in the cloud environments that you may be working in today. And there's value to think about how do you mimic this same architecture for high performance storage on the one hand, and then building your own private storage cloud on the other in order to get those great economics by leveraging these two different architectures that I will talk about. So this is how we view the world, is that there's this massive amount of data. Most of the data is warm and cold. The hot data can be at any one day is 10, maybe 20% of your data, but most of your data is warm and cold. And so we see an architecture where there is a scale out NVMe based architecture that has multiple protocols in support of all your production workloads. And so this needs to be very high performance based on NVMe, RDMA networking, integrating all of these scale out storage nodes. And then in addition is effectively a data lake or storage cloud, which is built by a combination of NVMe, hard disk drives, and tape resources that can provide for massive scale and cost effectivity and data protection and long-term durability of all of that storage. And you'll also see in these environments that there will be cloud native applications and a variety of different data management tools that are going to interact both with the production environment as well as with the data lake and the storage cloud. And so we see, by virtue of architecting a solution here that includes both of these storage effective platforms, that you can get the best maximum performance for your production workloads and cost effectivity and data protection for the massive amounts of data that you need to store over the long term. So here's just an example that you may be familiar with if you're looking into AI and AI pipelines and data lakes, is that there is this workflow that naturally occurs in which you are taking data into the environment. You've got to clean it and prepare it for use. Then you're going to do some model training, create inferencing, and then you have a whole large amount of the data that you're going to archive, or at least momentarily, until you might in the future recalibrate your model and bring that data back into your production environment. And so this is a natural workflow where you can see this married architecture with an all NVMe RDMA capability is really important for elements of the data preparation, the model training, and the data inferencing, where you need very high performance, low latency storage in support of the GPU clusters that are doing this analysis. And then independently is the capability of an ActiveScale data lake or private cloud type architecture that supports the rest of that infrastructure in terms of maintaining a good, low-cost, economical solution in support of the massive data that you're supporting. So Quantum Myriad was introduced last year. It's a very compelling new platform that provides for very intuitive use. It's all self-balancing and self-healing. And so it's very, very easy to manage. It's very scalable and can scale up to multi-petabytes and hundreds of billions of files and directories and objects all in a single namespace. It's very agile. It's built on a containerized microservices architecture. We use Kubernetes in order to actually build our storage clusters. And it can be run in the cloud or on-prem with off-the-shelf hardware and appliances that Quantum can provide, for example. And the real key here is that very scalable, scale-out architecture, very high performance using all the latest generation of NVMe and RDMA technologies to provide consistent low latency performance at any scale and for a variety of unstructured data workloads, including artificial intelligence, media rendering, HPC environments, and a variety of other scenarios that would work in your environment. So if you look at the architecture of a Myriad system, basically it's just standard off-the-shelf server nodes that are highly dense in their ability to have NVMe drives in the configuration. And the system is fully automated load balancing. And so there are load balancer nodes, which are basically switching nodes that are the front end of the system, which all of the production workloads will attach to. They attach to one IP address, and then the system is smart enough to distribute all of that workload to all of those front side client facing Ethernet ports, such that you get really fine-grained balancing across all of your workloads into the cluster. We can grow and shrink and refresh the system without disruption. We can auto-expand and rebalance across additional nodes so that as you grow over time, very simple to expand and continue to achieve very high performance. And it provides for increasing storage efficiency and data durability by virtue of re-architecting the layout of data using dynamic erasure coding over time and as you scale the system, such that you get increasing efficiency and data durability as you add additional nodes into the system. So the real key is that, number one, you have all of these multiple protocols that can access the storage infrastructure. It's all load balanced to make it very effective and very highly powerful in terms of performance. And it is built with an RDMA, NVMe-based 100 gig network for interconnection across all of the storage nodes in the system. And so this makes it very scalable, very high high performance in its capability. The deployment node is basically the Kubernetes management system, which manages the integration of all the system as we talked about. And as I talked about, our use of Kubernetes in the deployment of the cluster overall. So some of the key features: multi-protocol access, enterprise data services. It has snapshots, clones, deduplication and compression. It's a flexible file system management interface so that you can build file systems dedicated to specific workloads and environments. And the real key here is that the Myriad design is based on a key value store. And so this is a flat database type of system that provides for very, very high performance and really great scalability in terms of being able to build massive petabyte scale types of file systems and storage consolidation platforms. So that's Quantum Myriad. It's all flash, scale out, multi-protocol storage. And the real value to you as you deploy this within your environment, for example, is you'll reduce the operational costs by being able to consolidate more workloads and have fewer storage platforms within your environment, and be able to do that at any scale with consistent low latency performance. The management effort for this environment, given the automation that's built in, really frees up your IT personnel to focus on other business enablement type agendas, and that you can manage these clusters with very little IT resource and very little networking expertise required to build a large cluster. And then lastly, it reduces the risk and cost in terms of the tech refreshes over time. The system is very well architected to adopt additional hardware resources into the environment. There's no special hardware requirements. These are off-the-shelf systems that you get from a Supermicro or a Dell scenario. And so there's zero downtime technology refreshes. We are able to add resources to the cluster to expand it, and then remove older servers within the cluster as they age out in terms of their capability and performance. So just want to talk just a couple minutes about Quantum ActiveScale, because this is a very unique solution in the market, and this basically provides you to be able to build a private storage cloud within your own environment that includes both warm tiers of storage and cold tiers of storage. So for example, just as you have in an Amazon S3 environment, you have S3 Standard and S3 Glacier at a far lower cost and lower access speed. We can build the same architecture within your own IT environment or within your co-location center, etc. And this basically provides for scalable multi-class object storage. And the real focus of ActiveScale is for affordable and durable access. And this is throughout the data lifecycle, both active data and cold data. And the premise of the solution is that, number one, it needs to be simple. We can build very large configurations from terabytes to exabytes, and it's very easy to manage, very easy to grow, incredible automation that is built in. Performance is an important aspect of ActiveScale, not in the same way that for Myriad, it's all about high performance, low latency, maximize your throughput. But in the context of using NVMe and disk and tape, we're able to achieve best-in-class performance for each of those media types across these different storage classes. The key for ActiveScale is in terms of its durability. It is really focused on providing a really secure, available, and durable platform that can manage your data over its life cycle and always having it online and accessible. And so lastly is the key here is that by optimizing around the use of flash, disk, and tape, we are able to lower the cost of the whole storage infrastructure by leveraging these multiple technologies for the best price performance for your requirements. So here's ActiveScale. As I say, I think I've kind of impressed upon you that this is really about building your own storage cloud or data lake and being able to use standard S3 protocols for the ability to have both active data within your environment as well as cold data, and having it all online accessible all the time in your environment. This is what I was talking about when I talked about a little bit about using solid state hard drives and tape collectively. When you think about the fact that most of your data is infrequently accessed, but you want access to that data to be maintained online, then there are real value in the economics of tape and hard drives in relation to solid state drives. And so if you think about it in terms of the total amount of your data, and if you were to put that on all flash, it would be extremely expensive to do. But by leveraging this mixed media architecture of the ActiveScale, you are able to dramatically lower the cost of storing that data over its lifetime. And that can be much lower, up to 60 to 80% lower cost over the lifetime of your data in support of these large data intensive initiatives that you're focused on. Here is a little bit of a picture of the ActiveScale architecture. Again, it's a scale out architecture as well, in which you can seamlessly expand network, compute, and storage. And it too has data in place upgrades and decommissioning such that the data stays in place as you migrate server nodes in and out of the infrastructure as the system ages over time. It's a single namespace across all the data, so it's this one large private cloud. All of your metadata is based in NVMe. All of your active data is either NVMe or hard disk drives. And then all your cold data is based on tapes in automated tape library environments. And this is a totally integrated system. And from a user perspective, it feels very much like you're just using a public cloud type environment to access, to go and pull down your data, to go and put your data up into the environment. And the key is that this is very unique in the marketplace in that it's the first and only object store that is deployable in your environment that is architected for active and cold data, and can meet and even exceed the economics of a cloud storage platform when you deploy it in your own environment. So with ActiveScale, really the focus is accelerating time to insight, discovery, and innovation with easy fast access to more data. You don't have to make choices that you have to delete this data, that you have a corporate resource that can maintain these data sets over the long term and do it in a very economical way. It reduces the data management CapEx and OpEx. We can deploy this both as a solution that you manage, or we can deploy it in your environment and Quantum will manage the cloud infrastructure for you. And lastly, it protects you against data risks, right? It's just very secure, durable data protection. It is 19 nines of durability. It far exceeds the durability that is achieved within public cloud environments. And so it can provide for a very effective solution as a corporate resource that is strategic in its ability to store all of your data over time. So this is just this is a slide you've seen before, and I just want to make reference to it again, just as the kind of characteristically what we're seeing happening in the market is these two kind of bifurcated needs: one, to meet the high performance, low latency requirements of production workloads, and then at the same time to be able to integrate with a private storage cloud such as ActiveScale that leverages a combination of storage technologies, including NVMe, hard disk drives, and tape resources for the best cost effectivity and ongoing access to your data. So with that, just in summary, right, we talked a little bit about this idea of extracting data value. That's definitely a key trend that's happening in the industry today. At the same time, there is workload and storage consolidation that people are trying to simplify and automate their environment as much as they can. And as I argue that there's a real need for cost optimization in order for us to store, manage, and analyze the rich amount of data that is coming into our infrastructures and is informing organizations in new ways as to how they can leverage this data. Key needs, both the scale-out storage architecture optimized for performance and efficiency. And then something we didn't talk a whole lot about was this proactive data management, cataloging, and workflows that there are needs for tools and integration that, for example, we have with Myriad and ActiveScale to be able to manage data in and out of your GPU clusters and back into the private storage cloud, which forms the basis of your long-term storage needs. So with that, I would thank you very much for participating. There's data sheets that are included in your handouts that cover the ActiveScale and the Myriad products. And then, of course, at quantum.com, you can find more resources. There's a couple really good deep dive technical white papers that explain the architecture to much more depth and understanding than I can do in the last 20 minutes. But those might be a useful resource for you as you evolve, as you understand kind of the state of the art in terms of storage architectures that are available in the market today from Quantum. And lastly, if this is interesting to you, please reach out to us. We are certainly would love to talk to you more about your ongoing needs and what is important in your IT environment as we move forward in time. So thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Hey, what a great presentation. Really appreciated all of the fantastic information. Now, the downside of all this is that you've used up all of your time, so we cannot get to the Q&A today, unfortunately. But that's what happens when you have so much good stuff to put out there. Just amazing, amazing information. I do want to add here then that Quantum will follow up with attendees on all the questions that are asked that we could not get to today. So, Tim, thank you so much for your presentation, and it was great to have you here.
You bet. Thanks a lot. Thanks, everyone.
All right, folks. What do you think of that? Good stuff, huh? So with that, I am going to put up the final poll of the day now. And you've seen this many times before. You're going to see it just this last final time. Please let us know what information you would like to get about the quantum solution. There were some compelling arguments that Tim made there for this product, and I just think it looks absolutely fantastic. It's the kind of thing that if you want to get more from them, more information, make sure you vote in the poll right now. And to remember to follow up on what Tim mentioned, there is that download available in handouts. It's a PDF that deep dives into Quantum Myriad and ActiveScale, which he presented extensively today. So Keep voting in that poll while we wind this mega event down. The last thing we need to do is give away the final Amazon gift card and the final Kindle Scribe of the event today. So we have got those ready to go. And the winner of the last $300 Amazon card is Douglas Dickover from Nevada. And the winner of the final Kindle Scribe of the event. It's not me, I can tell you that, but the person who it is Sabita Bayanjankar from Virginia. Congratulations to Douglas, Sabita, and all of our winners today. There were so many of you. By my count, I think we had 14 winners. I mean, that's a big event, and a lot of people that are going to be going out of here a little bit richer and having some really cool tech to go. So thanks so much to all our winners. Congratulations. You will be hearing from us. And with that, folks, we are just about done now. I hope you had a great event today. I sure did. I had an awesome day of learning. And if you would like to educate your customers in a similar way, we sure would love to hear from you. Contact us at the email address you see up there, which is connect@actualtechmedia.com. And let us work with you on determining which of our hundreds of events each year would be a good fit for you, or maybe a custom event, which we do plenty of as well. We can build one just around you and whatever your solution is. So let us know. And let's see here. If you're not sick of me by now, which you may well be, and I wouldn't blame you one little bit, if you're not sick of me, I wanted to let you know that I will be doing this again tomorrow, although it will be slightly shorter than what we did today. I can hear the sighs of relief already through cyberspace. Now, this event is about securing IT with identity and access management tools. You see Keeper up here, who was also presenting today. We're also going to have Rubrik coming on to that event. So a couple of really important companies in the space. And this event starts at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, same time that today's event started, but it'll end slightly sooner than today's event ended. So with that, folks, we are wrapped. On behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank all of our presenters today for putting together amazing presentations and demos, and for taking time to answer your questions in all the various Q&A sessions we had. I want to thank all of our participants for making this event possible. They include, I'm going to take a big breath here, Catchpoint, Keeper, Scale Computing, Commvault, Pure Storage, CyberArk, Nutanix, and Quantum. Finally today, this wouldn't be an event without you folks being here, all of you attendees. Thank you so much for being here with me. I do this for you. I love being here with you. And it's always the highlight of my day to have a live event that I can hang out with all of you great folks. So I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Maybe I will see you in the event tomorrow. So until then, have a great afternoon. Bye, everyone.